Not yet? Do you want to just move it around? Hey, well, good to see you. Doing very well. Do you want me to just move it around?
Yeah, we will.
John.
So we're going to get started. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our meeting of the Town Council. Today is June 16th, and I'll ask Councilor Rhodes to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's nice to see everybody tonight. We have a nice turnout. We can get more chairs if you want in the back. And the first item, well, before we do the first item, attendance. Sue, please call the roll.
Mayor Lesser,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Forrest,
Here.
Councilor Bailey,
Here.
Councilor Carbone, Councilor Clancy, here. Councilor Durick, Councilor Rhodes, here. Councilor Timbrow, Councilor Zambrello. Here. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue, and good evening again, everyone. Excited to see so many faces here. The first item on our agenda is the presentation of the Dan Camilliere Scholarship, but I do not believe that Angelica, the recipient, has gotten here. Is she in the back? She is here. Great. So what we're going to do is we are going to call up to the podium over here the presenter of the award, John Cassio, Angelica, the winner, and Camille and Tony Camilliere. If you all join me over here, we are going to present the award. So this is a special opportunity for us to recognize Angelica. And real quickly, the background for this is Dan Camilliere, our former wonderful mayor. When he passed away, donations were given to the Wethersfield Veterans Commission in his honor. And the commission, and I don't know if anyone is here, but if you are, you're welcome to come up. And I liaison to that commission, so we had some great discussions about the best uses for those donated funds. And the scholarship was recommended, and we asked the family, Camille and Tony, and they loved that idea. So it's with great pleasure and pride that we're able to present the scholarship. There are no town funds. I did get that question. Is the town sponsoring this scholarship? No. It is the Veterans Commission, and it's all donated funds on Dan Camilliere's behalf, who obviously most of you know, but it's worth repeating, served our town admirably as its mayor, served our state as a state senator, and served our country as a veteran. And we appreciate all of his wonderful service. I'm now going to call on John Cassio, who is going to present the award to Angelica. He's known Angelica for a while. And then, Angelica, you can have a minute if you want to say something in receiving. So, John, would you come up and talk about Angelica? And then Angelica.
So first of all, this is a wonderful young lady. Angelica, can you come up here? A graduate, Wethersfield High School this year, last Tuesday. So that being said, I had the opportunity to meet Angelica when she was in 8th grade at the Silas Middle School. And with that, she was determined. This young lady took on many challenges through the school, as well as taking on the responsibility to write an essay, what Memorial Day means to her. So that's how our paths crossed. And from that point on, she has been a cornerstone for the youth at Wethersfield High School. She is involved with many, many activities, but more importantly, she sits on the Commission of Veterans Affairs. And she is a dynamo. I think you'd like to have her in your household. She is someone that is respectful. She is a peer mentor. She also takes care of everything and anything that she can do. If there's a job too big or too small, you call on Angelica. So with that, I'd like to, on behalf of the Dan Camilliere Citizen Scholarship, this certificate is proudly presented to the scholarship recipient of Angelica Dita for exemplary service above self. the Wethersfield Veterans Commission. Congratulations.
Before Angelica speaks, I want to acknowledge Sandra Rhodes, Navy veteran, member of the Veterans Commission, and was very helpful in this award. So Sandra, if we could do a little... And Angelica, if you want to take a minute or so?
I just want to say thank you so much for the scholarship. It means a lot to me, obviously, like the financial aspect of it, but also, too, for what it means, the idea of service above self. I was heavily involved with something called Interact Club in my school, and that is our motto. It's like of Rotary International. It's something that I try to exemplify every day in my life, so it means a lot in that way, too. Thank you so much.
If mom or dad are here, if you want to take a quick photo, we can do that. Camille and Tony and Ann, John and Sandra. Let's. Tony.
Yes.
Again next to. Yeah. Maybe you in the middle. Next to John, you want to get in there too? Thank you so much, Krista.
Oh, I'm taking video. Hold on.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you very much.
Angelica. The check is in the slide.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Now let me know where I put the proclamation. Thank you, everybody, and congratulations again, Angelica. The next item on the agenda tonight is a proclamation for Juneteenth, and please indulge me as I read it, and then we'll go on after that to our public hearing. Whereas Juneteenth, also known as Freedom Day, Juneteenth is National Independence or Emancipation Day. It is the oldest known celebration of the end of slavery in the United States. It's a day to remember the sacrifice of our ancestors, reflect on the legacy of slavery, and celebrate the resilience of those who fought for freedom. And whereas President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, declaring the slaves in Confederate territory are now free, paving the way for the passage of the 13th Amendment, which formally abolished slavery in the United States. And whereas word about the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation was delayed some 2.5 years to June 19th, 1865, in reaching authorities and African Americans in the South and Southwestern part of the United States. And whereas June 19th has special meaning to African Americans and is called Juneteenth, combining the words of June and 19th, and has been celebrated by the African American community for over 150 years. Now I, Ken Lesser, Mayor of the Town of Wethersfield, on behalf of our Town Council, hereby recognize Juneteenth, observe this 19th day of June 2025, and urge all citizens to become more aware of the significance of this celebration and of the African American history and the heritage of our nation and in our town. Thank you. Moving on in our agenda. And again, thank you for all of you coming tonight. This is democracy. It's great to see all of you tonight. The next item on our agenda is a public hearing, C-1. C-1, Mr. Town Manager. I don't know if we have a technical difficulty, but.
Thank you, Mayor. This is for R25-012, a resolution to appropriate $239 million for the construction of a new HIGHCREST Elementary School and for the renovation and improvements to Samuel Webb Elementary School and Charles Wright Elementary School, and to authorize the issuance of bonds or notes of the town in the amount not to exceed $88 million to finance the appropriation. At this time, I would like to ask Bond Counsel Matthew Ritter to come forward and explain the resolution itself, the components of it, and answer any questions the council might have before opening up for public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Thank you to our bond counsel, and the floor is yours, Mr. Counsel.
Okay, I'm Good evening, everybody, and glad to answer any questions. Again, my name is Matt Ritter. I'm the chair of the Public Finance Group at Shipman & Goodwin in Hartford, and we are here to help the town get through this process and ultimately, if the referendum passes, to issue the bonds. Two things to note. The first section of the resolution is pretty self-explanatory. The total cost is estimated to be about $239 million. That is the maximum amount the town can spend if that's approved by the voters at referendum. We've locked in that number. You'll see there's estimates for the 3 schools, for HIGHCREST, Samuel Webb, and Charles Wright. I would note that if one goes slightly over, the town council would be authorized to transfer funds amongst the projects. That's pretty common when you're doing multiple schools, but you wouldn't want a situation where one project was under by $1 million, there was over, and you were forced to make changes to the scope of the project. This will allow you, if the voters say so, to move monies around to make that work, but you're still locked into the $239 million total figure. The second part of the resolution is the amount that you're going to borrow, which is estimated to be $88 million, and like the appropriation, that is an amount not to exceed. So you'll be capped at $88 million. If you needed additional borrowing capacity, you'd have to go back to the voters and seek that approval. Why the mismatch? Why are you appropriating $239 million and borrowing $88 million? This is the estimated amount of money that you're going to get from the state of Connecticut from the school construction program. So it's baked into that. So the rest of that delta, which is north of $140 million ballpark, is estimated to come from the state of Connecticut as school construction reimbursement in the coming years. This resolution authorizes you to issue bonds or notes, right? Bonds can be, under the general statutes, can be as long as 30 years to finance the projects. Short-term notes, though, are a mechanism that you'll work with bond counsel and your financial advisor. If you're not ready to start the project, but you need some seed money, you might do a 1-year note and roll those over for a while. But that's pretty technical stuff. Section 5 will authorize the town manager and the finance director to continue to apply for additional grants that may be available. You'll notice in Section 6, the date of the referendum is set. You are tonight setting the date for September 16th, 2025, between the hours of 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. And you'll note the question at that referendum is in Section 8. This date is important. The reason you're voting today is under state statute to be on the priority list for school construction. You need to have the referendum scheduled by June 30th, 2025, and the referendum vote has to happen prior to November 15th, 2025. So there's a pretty big gap between this meeting and the referendum, but that's being done to be on the priority list for next year. If you missed this window, you'd have to wait a whole nother 18 months basically to be on the school construction priority list. I would note that after tonight, the silent period begins for the town council and members of the administration. And what does that mean? You cannot use municipal funds to advocate for or against this referendum project. You don't lose your First Amendment rights to do whatever you want in your own free time. You just can't use town and Board of Ed resources. So we can talk about that if there's questions, and we can certainly talk after, but that is the trigger tonight under Title IX of the statutes. It's now a legally pending referendum. It's just a pretty large gap. In the resolution, last thing I'd point out in Section 9 is that you are authorizing the town manager to work with bond counsel and the town attorney to prepare explanatory text, which would be mailed to the voters of the town. That is a neutral text. It does not advocate for or against. It'll be scrubbed by lawyers to make sure there's no adjectives or anything that could be construed as, as advocating for or against the project. But that is one way the town can communicate with residents to remind them about the time, the date, the place, the questions, and a quick summary of what the projects would do. So that is a lightning quick review of the resolution. I'm sure you'll have questions, and I'm glad to answer any that I can.
Thank you, Matt. That was terrific, and appreciate all your work to get us to this point. And now I will open it up to councilors. Do councilors have any questions? Councilor Bailey.
In Section 8, is that the bond for the bond council, or is that what the actual referendum is going to read?
That is what the question will read in Section 8. Yep.
It should read that a new HIGHCREST elementary school on the farm property.
If I may, yeah, we spoke about this. It's every intent to put it on the farm property, and we can also have it in the explanatory text. But if we put it in the actual bond language, if something were to happen on that property,
that's what I asked. If this was the referendum language or the bond language.
This is it's one and the same. So the referendum language is for the bond. So if we put it in there, if anything were to happen, we put a shovel in the ground and we uncover
All right, well,
an archaeological site, if we had to shift, we'd have to go back out to bond again, out to referendum again in order to get it approved, and it would stop everything
I
in its tracks.
apologize. We did speak of that
Yep.
earlier. I just thought there were
No, I think it's important, though, that the public, because I know this came up at the last meeting, and I did speak with bond counsel about it, and it would tie the town's hand if something were to come up. We don't anticipate anything to come up, and we
Understood.
will absolutely clearly explain it in the explanatory text that the town intends to build it on the Keisha Farm property, because that's what was agreed to by this body. But we don't want to limit ourselves if we have to change course
Understood.
for some unforeseen reason. And we don't expect there to be anything, but you don't want to do that. So.
Understood.
Yeah, we very strictly construe it, right? And so you would never want someone to make the argument that the resolution the voters approved was somehow changed or edited in any way. Yeah.
Thank you, Councilor Bailey.
Understood.
Anything else?
Yeah. No, I'm good.
Any other councilor questions? Deputy Mayor Forrest.
Thanks. Welcome, Counselor.
Thank you.
You mentioned the silent period, blackout period.
Yep.
And then you also talked about the First Amendment. So while we're up here, we're obviously going to talk about this and pass it or not pass it, as the case may be.
Yep.
Are two questions, but they're related. Are we free to continue to talk about it at this dais? And correspondingly,
Yep.
is the public free to talk about it exactly where you're standing, but still, even if it's in a governmental meeting, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, the public can certainly come at any time and do whatever they want. So let's
Sure.
be clear about
Yeah.
that, right? Here's what I would say. If you're getting asked questions and you're at the dais and you're responding to questions, that's fair game, right? You have a job to do. You've been elected. You have to respond to your constituents. What would be different is if on August 15th, and I don't even know if you meet that day,
Sure.
but someday you put up a PowerPoint. And the PowerPoint said, this is the most important project in town history. If it does not pass, the schools will crumble, our kids will not get an education. The average person would realize you were advocating for that referendum. Or if you had the same PowerPoint that said, it's the worst project of all time, the schools are fine, you'd be trying to persuade someone. I think that's where you could get in trouble. Now, I would point out, someone has to file a complaint with SEEK. You have to be found to have violated the statute. But that's what I would be worried about, is where you have pre-planned, packaged advocacy materials versus going back and forth with your constituents. I'll give you another example. You might get an email from a constituent. Why did you vote yes? You're allowed to respond to that constituent. What you can't do is take your town government email and send an email to 700 people saying vote yes after tonight. So there's a nuance between responding to your constituents versus canned, prepackaged news email blasts or things like that that sort of advocate your position, if that makes sense. But what you do with your Gmail is fine, because that's not paid for by the town. But your personal government email is, if that makes sense.
Thank you for your clarification.
Yeah,
Appreciate your
no
time.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Further council questions or comments? If not, I will now open the public hearing. Thank you, Matt.
You want me to go back
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
If there's any questions, I'll stick around.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you, appreciate it. We have 15 speakers signed up. If you're not on the list and you want to speak, you still can speak, but I'm going to go one by one down the list and this is just for the public hearing, not general public comment, which will follow this. This is only on the bond resolution. And the first name I have on the list is Jamie Lang. And Jamie, I ask you when you come up to give your name and address, please.
Hi, Jamie Lang, 46 Bay Rock Road here in town. I'm here tonight to express my full support for officially moving the HIGHCREST, WEBB, and Charles Wright referendum question forward. This is a major opportunity for our town. With about a 70% reimbursement rate from the state, we have a rare chance to make a high-impact investment in our schools while being fiscally responsible to our taxpayers. Modernizing our elementary schools is critical, not just for our students, but for attracting and retaining the talented teachers who shape their futures. Educators want to work in schools that are safe, well-equipped, and designed for today's learning needs. Our schools also serve the broader community as gathering places, program spaces, and emergency resources. Supporting this project means supporting the infrastructure that benefits everyone in town. Advancing this referendum question is a vote for our children, our educators, and our future, and I urge you all to please move this forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Next. Thank you, Jamie. Next on the list is Amy Morin-Bello. Amy?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Amy Morin-Bello, 311 Hartford Avenue, proudly serving as the state rep for the 28th District. Before I talk in support of the referendum, I do just want to speak out about the horrendous act that occurred in Minnesota, and it's impacted all elected officials, and I want to take a moment to thank all of you for the service you're doing for your community, and none of us should have to do it and be worried about our physical, safety and health and lives, and I just wanted to give a shout out to each and every one of you who are up here serving and doing what you think is right for the community, so thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
To the referendum, I have 3 children, they're all in their 20s. They were the beneficiaries of some school renovations in the past. WEBB Elementary School opened back as an elementary school. My kids were some of the first students there. They went to the middle school and then they went to the high school they lived through the renovation, and then they were there when the renovation finished. And we know firsthand that renovated schools are better for our students. They're healthier. They have better technology. They make our educators happier and healthier, and we have better learning outcomes. It's so important to do this. I have to look at my notes because I don't want to screw up the numbers, but I recognize how expensive that a school renovation project can be, and we're trying to do 3 of them at once, so the cost is huge. There's a formula that Attorney Ritter spoke about briefly, and it's a formula that the state of Connecticut DAS has, and it's a reimbursement percentage of the total project cost. And for Wethersfield, it was set at 46.79 for new construction and 56.79 for renovations. State Rep Kerry Wood and I fought for additional funding, and we fought for that additional funding for a few very important reasons. One, we desperately need to renovate all 5 of our elementary schools, and we see what a huge ticket that is to the taxpayers of the town of Wethersfield. The other reason we were advocating so strongly is because we realize that Wethersfield tax base is so heavily dependent on our homeowners. Our neighboring communities have much bigger commercial tax base, and so that the burden is spread out among more people. It's felt less by our homeowners. And then the other reason we advocated so strongly was because of the dedication from our Board of Ed to make sure we have preschool space at HIGHCREST, the new HIGHCREST, and that we have special ed space in all of our buildings. So, I think it's important not just for our children, not just for our educators, but for our community as a whole to get this passed. And with rates of 76% for HIGHCREST to build new and 71.79% to renovate WEBB into a 5th, 6th academy and Charles Wright, this is the time to do it. We will not see reimbursement rates like this again, so I urge you to vote for this, and I urge our citizens to come out strong in September and vote for this, not just for our students and teachers, but for our community as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Appreciate it. Thank you. And I'll just remind the speakers, thank you, that you're to address the council, and my next speaker is John Weiner. John, you're up, and then Bobby Granado's after you. John, go ahead. Name and address for the record and address the council.
Yes, sir. Good evening. John Weiner, 271 Garden Street. As chair of the Advisory School Building Committee and an elected member of the Board of Education, I am incredibly honored and in full support of the plan for referendum. I wanted to first thank all the members of the Building Committee for their hard work and dedication to see this project through. Your involvement in this should never go unrecognized. I also want to thank my fellow Board of Education members, town councilors, of special note Emily Zambrello, Superintendent Emmett, and our consultants at TSKP and Downs for working hard on getting us up to this important vote tonight. I also want to sincerely thank our state legislators representing Wethersfield, you just heard from Amy, who are able to exceed expectations and secure a lucrative reimbursement rate that helps take some of the burden off of our taxpayers. We essentially, because of their efforts, are able to build and renovate 3 schools for the price of 1. A major deal like this should not be taken for granted. When speaking with our wonderful Board of Education Chair, Bobby Hughes-Granado, who you'll hear from in a few minutes, a few weeks back, she said something that sums up to me the feelings of this pending referendum. She said, "This is truly a transformative moment for Wethersfield." She's correct. This is 100% one of the most transformative moments in the history of our town. To put things into perspective, I have some numbers for you. 1969, 1962, and 1970. Those are the years that HIGHCREST, WEBB, and Charles Wright elementary schools were built. That's 56, 63, and 55 years, respectively, in which these buildings were first opened, all before many of you, including myself, were born. That is where this transformation takes place. I don't need to harp on the condition of the buildings as they stand. We all know the issues that they have. But what I will tell you is that we have a chance to set up Wethersfield for generations. Like those numbers show, future decades of families are going to realize the benefits of these new schools. Generational change or transformation that we as leaders of this town can make happen today with this vote to set the referendum, and then ultimately as residents can lead the way to recommend that change with a vote of confidence on September 16th. So let's transform. Transform to a brand new HIGHCREST elementary school, integrated and honoring the land in which it sits on, Keisha Farm. Let's transform to a newly renovated Webb 5-6 Academy, leveraging a building that was built for secondary education and beautifully renovated auditorium for our town to utilize. Let's transform to a newly renovated Charles Wright Elementary School that allows a beloved neighborhood to retain its school for future generations. Let's transform. You, town councilors, have the opportunity to unanimously give a vote of confidence to our residents that you care about the future of education in Wethersfield. Let's transform. Us as residents who have had referendum after referendum fail in the murky waters of politics. We have the opportunity to not let this project become another chapter of opposition, but unite on a common good, education, which is one of the most important services this town provides to its residents. Once set, September 16th will be our opportunity. I ask all of you, are you ready to win it for Wethersfield? Are you ready to transform? The time is now. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. I have Bobby Granado next. Bobby, are you here? No. Okay, I'm going to keep moving if I don't see Bobby. Sally Keating? Sally? I think I saw you a little while. Yep.
Good evening. Sally Keating, 109 Church Street. I am speaking in support of the referendum. First, I would like to thank all of you for all the time you've spent on this topic. You've listened to the consultants, you've listened to us parents and grandparents, you've read a lot of materials, and I want to thank you for your time. I think it's very, very important. The first time I ever met Ken Lesser, our mayor, he came to my door. He was campaigning for town council, and I guess I had a chip on my shoulder about the schools because I was upset that they were not being fixed. And Mayor Lesser told me at that point that the fixing our schools was the #1 priority for our town at this time. I got involved in the elementary school project because I've seen many of the issues with the schools firsthand. I have a granddaughter who attends Hamner Elementary. For the residents who are not convinced we need to move forward with the referendum and fixing our schools, I offer a few examples of things I've seen and learned about in the past 2+ years. I had a tour of HIGHCREST over a year ago, and in one classroom, the teacher described how on the days when the weather is getting cooler, she considers asking the children to wear their coats. The alternative is to turn on the heat. The problem is that her classroom has heatilators, as they are known, and they spew out so much dust and dirt that she avoids turning on those units if she can. Should a teacher have to have this thought process? I don't think so. When it rains, the students at HIGHCREST regularly have to walk around wastebaskets that are collecting water from the leaking ceiling. There are pictures of caution tape because in the areas where the ceiling is very high, the custodians can't always get to those ceiling tiles, which may fall down on children's heads. At Emerson Williams School last year, a kindergarten teacher had 3 significant water leaks in her classroom from the ceiling. On the 3rd one, her class had to be moved to the gym. And we have classrooms in at least 2 of our elementary schools, Emerson Williams and Hamner, that I know of, where the air conditioning has to run during the winter months. The reason is that our HVAC systems are so old that they can no longer be properly regulated. Without the air conditioning in the classroom, the temperature would be over 80 degrees. The temperatures are not conducive to learning. And with all these roof leaks, we know that porous material is getting wet and mold is the result. We also have asbestos and lead paint in our schools. And for people who think our classrooms, our schools are just used Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., that's not the case. We have Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts meetings, we have fife and drum practice, all kinds of other activities that go on. Sometimes our schools are used Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Last week I had walked around the back of Hamner School and I noticed the foundation was crumbling at one spot and there's actually exposed rebar. You don't have to be a structural engineer to know that exposed rebar is very bad. There was also a dead mouse nearby, but at least he was outside. It is my understanding that we have or have had mice in all 5 elementary schools. After I spoke at a town council meeting last month, I was handed a note from a resident that read, "Please think of the Wethersfield taxpayer too." I have been thinking about our taxes, not just because I'm a Wethersfield resident and a taxpayer, but my greatest fear with the elementary school project was that it would be too expensive for some homeowners, causing them to vote no. Thanks to the work of Amy Moran Bello, Kerry Zepp-Wood, Matt Lesser, and John Fonfera, the state reimbursement rates for our school project went way up. I won't go over the numbers, we've all heard them, and it is fantastic. This is saving the town millions of dollars. The time is now to move forward with fixing our schools. If we weren't to do it this year, next year I'm told that would be tens of millions of dollars more, not even considering the increase in the reimbursement rate. We may never have a better opportunity to do the right thing for our schools, for our kids, for our teachers, and for our town. I urge every town resident to vote yes on September 16th. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Thank you. Next I have Scott Wright. I should have made this clear to everybody because we have many people who aren't here tonight. The timer is for 5 minutes. At 4 minutes, the light will go to yellow, and at 5 minutes, it will go to red, and I will say at that point, please summarize your comments, and I apologize for not saying that before. So Scott, name and address, and the floor is yours.
Scott Wands, 4 Avalon Place. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Deputy Mayor, members of council, I come before you tonight to speak in favor of the school referendum. First, I would like to express my thanks and gratitude for all the hard work done by so many people to get us to this moment. To Russ Morin, John Weiner, all the members of the Advisory School Building Committee for all of their hard work for the past many months, soliciting input from our town's residents to come up with the best plan to at long last repair and replace our town's elementary schools. To the Board of Ed and members of council who have helped listen to residents and support this process from the outset. And of course, to all of our town residents for making their voices heard and giving our town the information it needs to create the ideal plan for our town's schools. And I do believe that this is the plan that is before you, the ideal plan for the town of Wethersfield, our families, and future generations of town students. When this referendum is passed, our town will thoughtfully work to replace each of our town's elementary schools over a period of 10 years. No neighborhood schools will go offline. All school populations will be evened out. A new 5th and 6th grade academy will allow our town's 10 and 11-year-olds to flourish in a school together, preparing them for middle school success. And there has never been a better time to do this than now. Thanks to our elected state officials, Representatives Morin Bello and Representative Wood, Senator Fonfara, Senator Lesser, the town's reimbursement rate has never been higher, and it may never be this high again. I know that the cost of living has increased for all of us. I know that people are worried about their taxes going up. But our schools need to be fixed. And this cost will only go up the longer we delay. And the share of this cost to be paid by taxpayers has never been more reasonable than it is now. My daughter, who is with us this evening, is entering high school in the fall. She won't benefit from the new schools before she graduates. My family will not personally benefit from this referendum, but I know that it is what's best for Wethersfield, and I urge you to approve this referendum language and the date and start the path forward to a new future for all of Wethersfield. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott. Thank you. Next, I have Kristen Cocola, and if I mispronounce your name, I'm sorry. But Crystal, are you here? Yeah.
Hi, Crystal Cocola, 62 Kimberly Lane. I have two children, a daughter who just graduated from HIGHCREST last year and a son who currently goes to HIGHCREST and will be going into first grade. My family has lived through the deplorable conditions of HIGHCREST school for the last 4 years. I'm speaking now to show my support for the referendum and this school building project. I also want to thank the volunteers on the Building Advisory Committee, TSKP, and Downs Construction for all the work they've put in to develop this plan. This town and our children have waited long enough for new and renovated schools, and I urge you all to vote yes. Thank you.
I understand that Bobby is here. I don't see you, Bobby, but are you here? Because you're on the list. Are you in the back? Bobby, you're up. Bobby Granado. And on deck is Mindy Gold after Bobby. You're just coming from the golf course, Bobby?
And I'll tell you, I lost, too. That's the worst part of it all. But I'm here.
Name and address for the record, Bobby.
Okay, Bobby Hughes Granado, 51 Golf Road in Wethersfield. I'm here to say thank you. This was an incredible feat to get to this point. And I want to thank everybody who did this. And we started it a couple years ago. You know, it didn't work. COVID
Bobby,
came
just,
in.
Excuse me for interrupting. Please address
To
the
you
council.
guys. And I will say, it's just been a labor of love by everybody on the board. And the town council is right there with us. We've checked all the dollars and the cents. We've checked with people. We've worked it so diligently that we get the buildings we want for the money that we can afford. So that's why I'm here tonight, to say thank you to everyone. That includes everyone in town, because we're not done yet, but this was quite a project. So thank you all.
Thank you, Bobby. Mindy?
Mindy Gold, 405 Ridge Road. My name is Mindy Gold, and I am the mother of two young children. My 1-year-old Tenley, who I hope will benefit from these new schools, and my 4-year-old Jamie, who, it's safe to say, is absolutely obsessed with Paw Patrol, dinosaurs, and kindergarten. In December, when I first started learning about this effort, thanks in large part to Sally Keating, I wrote to the town council and I said, I believe that the way we spend our money is a statement about our priorities. If we want to make a statement to the residents of this town, to potential newcomers, and to the people of this state that Wethersfield cares about children and families, we absolutely must put our checkbook where our mouth is. As I often see in municipal and state budget decision-making, where there's a will, there's a way. And I am proud to be on the record today stating that the young families of Wethersfield have the will, and we are relying on you, our elected town leadership, to help us find the way. Our youngest residents and their dedicated educators shouldn't be begging for bare minimum facilities. We should be dreaming up innovative and collaborative learning spaces where our community isn't just getting by, but truly flourishing and thriving. So thank you to TSKP, to the ASBC, to the BOE, and to the Town Council for helping us find the way. Please pass this resolution unanimously and let us show you, as a town, our will. Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy. I hope everybody got the acronyms you used. Thank you. I have Johnny Moore Dotson next. Johnny?
Johnny Moore Dotson, 7 Springdale Road. I just want to start by thanking the School Building Committee, the Board of Education, TSKP, for all of their hard work getting us to this point. I also want to highlight the fact that the explanations that were given by Bound Counsel, like the thoroughness that he went into explaining every part of the revolution that he could in a brief amount of time, answering the questions, and the fact that Rep. Bello got up here and gave all the facts regarding the reimbursement, that points to such a thoughtful and strategic approach at multiple levels of government that was taken throughout this entire process. And I just want you all to recognize that this wasn't done some, mishappen way. Like, everybody had their ducks in a row. They took the steps that were necessary. They let the process play out, and they had forethought about it. I'm sure, they weren't thinking, oh, we're gonna really work to get the reimbursement set right before the date. I mean, you had to plan for that ahead of time. So I just wanted to highlight that and say thank you to everyone involved in this process. I do support the referendum, so I'll be out to vote yes in September, and I hope you all will vote yes to move this resolution forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you, Johnny. I have Bob Woodward. Bob, you're up next.
Bob Woodward, 456 Middletown Avenue in Weathersfield. I'm a citizen who's deeply appreciative of the extra money from the state. It's a challenging year, not only with things like tariffs, but with the revaluation, et cetera, and the extra money is appreciated. But there's one thing I would like to ask the town council to change in this, and that's the voting date. We're 7 weeks away from November 4th, which, if I heard the bond counsel right, he said November 15th. November 4th is before the 15th. If there are other things on that ballot that will pull people out who will vote for the school referendum, I'm sure, or against it as they so choose, but it will save us $20,000, which in the course of the millions that people are tossing around here tonight isn't much. But to some of us, $20,000 can be taken and put into something else. Please amend that date and do it on November 4th. If you don't, I will vote no for this. I have made up my mind on that. If you do change it to November 4th, I will ponder it and pray about it and give it every consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Next, I have Sarah Gantley. Sarah?
All right, good evening. I'm Sarah Gantley, 16 The Cartway in Weathersfield. I'm here tonight in support of the school referendum. I'd like to thank, like many have before me, the building committee, and also Representatives Amy Morambello and Carrie Wood for their hard work getting us a really amazing reimbursement rate for this. Over the past several months, we've heard people get up and say how we can all agree that the schools need to be done, they're falling apart. I sincerely hope that, having listened to all of that, that means that this will pass unanimously to move forward and that people will come out in September in support of it. This is long overdue. It will keep Weathersfield moving forward. Renovating our schools will keep families moving into town, it will maintain our housing values, but most importantly, it will keep our children, teachers, and staff safe. Please vote in support of moving the school referendum forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. I have Matt Cooper up next. Matt, are you here? Yep.
Matt Cooper, 120 Highland Street. I'd like to start by thanking some of the folks that have gotten us to this point. Thank you to the Advisory School Building Committee for all their efforts in developing the plan before the council. Thank you to TSKP and Downs Construction for their guidance through the initial phase of this project. Thank you to the Board of Education for their support. Thank you to Carrie Wood and Amy Morambello for the fantastic reimbursement rate that they fought to get us at the state level. And also thank you to the Town Council for the work you've put in thus far and the milestone I expect we'll reach tonight. I will say, I think you really got it right. You listened to the feedback, you made adjustments along the way, and you're putting forward the plan with the highest possible likelihood of success. For context, I have a rising second and fifth grader at HIGHCREST. I grew up in town and attended Emerson Williams, Silas Deane Middle School, and Wethersfield High. I will say that Emerson is almost exactly as I left it in 1995. I'd like to share the reasons why I believe this project is important for our town. Number one, we're in desperate need of it. We have a first-class school system with subpar facilities at the elementary level. Our students deserve to attend safe, modern schools. And as residents and town leaders, we deserve to have facilities that are not in a constant state of disrepair. Number two, this brings considerable economic development to the town. These schools attract young families with high economic value. The rise in property values and the additional revenue from commercial development will more than compensate for the rise in property taxes to pay for this project. And then number three, as a town, regardless of the services your families use, we should feel a moral obligation to invest in our young people and give them the best possible environment for personal and academic growth. New schools will foster that. With that, I encourage the council to vote yes and approve the plan for the schools for referendum in the fall. And I will leave you with one thought. Do not let great be the enemy of good. Hundreds of decisions were made to get to this point. No one will agree with every single one of them. Please consider that this is a sound, solid plan and a vote yes tonight, but also in September. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Matt. I have two more on the list, and then I will see if there's anyone else who wants to speak on the public hearing. The last two are Judy Tacey. Judy, you're up now, and Kim Bobbin. So Judy, and those are the last two I have on the list. But again, I will see if anyone else wants to speak on the hearing. And name and address for the record, Judy.
I think I want one of these microphones. Judy Tacey, 212 Middletown Avenue, and I'm here with probably just a couple of questions, I guess. And the first question I tried to get answered multiple ways and multiple times. At the HIGHCREST meeting with TSKP, I guess his name is Michael Scott, made the comment that should the town have to go to court against the Historic District Commission, that what they most likely would win the day. They were informed this by the town council. So you are the town council. He made the statement. It's on record and it's on film. And I lived in the Historic District for over 45 years. So it's important to me to know whether the town council can overturn it, because he said that you said he was most likely would win. I'd like to know if it was all of you or one of you. So that is important to me. I agree with my neighbor, Bob Woodward. I think the schools are important enough that it should be combined with the regular election. That's when your turnout is. Everybody knows that these little referendums in between get the smallest turnout, and I don't know if that's exactly what you're all hoping for, but I think you should include more of the town, and that will happen on election day. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Judy. Thank you. Next, I have Kim Bobbin. Kim, are you here? Yes, you are.
Good evening, Kim Bobbin, 83 Longview Drive. I could stand before you and talk about the children, but I think we've all heard that. I could talk about the buildings, but I think we've all heard that. But as a resident, I can't believe this reimbursement rate. So 71% for one school and 76% reimbursement on HIGHCREST as a brand new building with preschool. I will vote for that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Kim, and you win the record for the shortest time speaking tonight. That is all the people I have on my list, but does anyone else want to speak on the public hearing? Tom, I think I saw your hand, Tom. And if anyone else after Tom will have, before we go to the regular public comments.
Good evening, Tom Mazzarella, 600 Walcott Hill Road. I'm going to try for the longest after Kim, okay? Tonight, I'm going to read a letter penned by Amanda Drew of 340 Walcott Hill Road that was unable to attend, so I'd like to read her letter into the record. Make sure everyone understands it's from Amanda, not Tom. As many of you know, I sit on the building committee for the schools. I am happy to see such a positive response at this meeting, but being here is not going to get the referendum passed. Now is the time to go to your neighborhood and talk to your neighbors. I'm not here to debate the referendum, but to bring to your attention an issue. I've spent many, many evenings working on this and do not want this to derail everything the committee has worked so hard to complete. I believe the notice to the public is technically incorrect. The whole point of a public notice is to give the public the correct information and allow them to make their opinions on said proposal known. The notice published in the papers said the issuance of bonds not more than $140 million for the project. Your resolution tonight states not to exceed $88 million. Some members of the public will make the decision at the ballot based upon the public notice only, and 140 is far bigger than 88, which could lose some voters. I also do not know the implications this might have with the bond council and not giving proper notice to the correct amount to the public. If the referendum passes, is there an opportunity for someone or group to fight the passage because proper notice wasn't given? Did bond council give approval to continue with the referendum despite the lack of the proper notice? Do we have that in writing? I'm a stickler for following rules, as Mr. Presley can attest to, as this is the third time in a few months that I am bringing up some serious procedural deficiencies in decisions being made that can potentially have serious outcomes. We must realize that statutes are not guidelines. We can, I don't understand this part, but we can follow. Kind of, sort of follow, I guess, is what she was saying.
Thank you.
Now I'll switch to Tom Mazzarella comments. In section 1, there's been some discussion about the Keisha being omitted from the description of where the HIGHCREST Elementary School will be placed. And I heard Attorney Ritter explain that. I disagree. And my reason is that this was Keisha property, was a very controversial property. And there was a group of people that did not want anything put on that farmland. And I'm very concerned that this thing will pass and that a switch will be made. Maybe we'll find some historic dairy cow bones or something of that nature, and now all of a sudden we have to switch it to the other side of Highland Street, which the committee and everyone involved thought that was the worst of the 3 locations. I'm very concerned about it, to the point where there was a comment made by State Rep Bello. I'm going to read it verbatim so I don't get it wrong. Keisha is the last upland farm parcel that the town can actually have farming on. What a waste to build a school on that land. I understand setting aside some of it for playing fields, but to lose it all when we are hearing of all the trouble farms have had with flooding in the meadows seems like a tragedy. The writing was on the wall. When we had discussions in this room about relocating the school from Stillman to Highland Street, there was a group of people that were advocating for protecting that farmland, and they sat there and never said a word. Not one word. No one got up and commented. They suddenly didn't care that there was going to be huge heat sinks and parking lots and traffic. Nothing was said. It was as if they knew that once this thing passed, it's just going to get changed. It's even in the description here. So I challenge Attorney Ritter to say, why can't we put it in the upper portion, New HIGHCREST Elementary School, at the previous Keisha location, when at the bottom of that same section, the council may reduce or modify the scope of the projects, and the entire appropriation may be expended on the project so as to be reduced or modified. The town council, by resolution, can transfer funds among the projects. So even if you put it in there, the council could still vote to relocate it. But at least I have it in there. And then people are going to fight it, because that's not being truthful with everybody. Let the people know. I don't understand. This is a fantastic deal. We're going to get schools like John said. We're going to get 3 schools for the price of 1. People are going to vote for it. But be upfront and honest about where the thing's going to go. That's what I think should happen. My next problem is the state, from what I understand, said you needed $9.3 million set aside for the demolition of HIGHCREST, which won't occur up until 2032, according to the thing, thereabouts. There's nothing in the wording right now that prevents that $9.3 million to be consumed in phase 1 because of cost overruns, because it changes in the work scope, whatever it may be. So in 2032, when we go to take the building down, they're going to say, we don't have any money left. We spent it on something else. I think there should be language in there. The state made us put that in the first phase because they wanted to ensure that the building had funds to demolish it when the project was done. I think there should be some protection put in there for that. Section 2 was what Amanda talked about. And I think I'll wrap up for there and continue at the public comments portion. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And just so you know, we're going to finish with the public hearing on this and anybody else who's not on the list. And then I'm going to ask our bond counsel if he's able to address some of the concerns that you and Amanda brought up, Tom. Anybody else who's not on the list but wants to speak about the public hearing on the schools? Mr. Young.
Good evening, Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. Mr. Mazzarella brings up some very strong issues that I hope you do address. And we don't live in a town that has honesty. You need to put it in writing. And whatever you're going to do going forward, if it's $9.3 million to do demolition on the HIGHCREST school, you should do that just to protect that money. Otherwise, you, as he says, you will spend it elsewhere. And you have in the past. We've seen schools where windows were supposed to be put in, never were put in. That was at the WEBB school. And it just went on and on with other things. We've seen repair jobs done that were only less than 10 years having a new roof replaced. And when you go out, and my understanding is that
Mr. Young, please address the council.
I'm sorry?
Please address the council.
Oh, I understand that, you know, there's 20-year warranty on things, on these schools. Yeah, we've had roof over at HIGHCREST School. put on in what, 2016, and no warranty. Nobody repaired it except for the town taxpayers. They had to pay for it, and that was only done in 2025. We have other repair jobs going on in town that have very short lives. And it really brings up the issue of the quality and performance that these contractors will put out, and what they will back it up with for repair if something happens. Obviously, the town is lousy, absolutely lousy in following up on these types of repairs. They just throw it onto the taxpayer. So anyway, I also think you should have the referendum on the regular election day, which I think is what, November 4th? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Further public comments on the public hearing? Anybody else on this item? I don't see any hands. Anybody? Martha, did I see your hand? Martha?
Good evening. Martha Camilliere, 12 Fairmont Street. I'm here tonight to express my full support for the school building project. My children are now in 16th and 17th grade, so they will not be benefiting from this directly. But, you know, I am very excited about the many ways that this will impact the children of our entire community, all of our home values, and the reputation of our community for generations to come. I'm especially appreciative of the commitment the Board of Education and Building Committee has made to fairness by supporting equitable facilities for each of our school communities. Just to give a little perspective, I was very active in the high school referendum. I founded the PAC. I was the co-leader of it. You know, one of the things that made it so I don't want to use the word easy because it's hard, but to pass something like this, but that allowed us to get so much support for the high school referendum is that everyone in town got the same thing. No matter where you live, your children go to Wethersfield High School, everyone has the same facilities, and the school has the same impact on all of our home values. Well, it's exciting to think about how each of these new schools will develop their own personalities. This plan reflects that kind of commitment to equity with the parity that there will be in the school facilities. So your children, no matter where they are, will have similar facilities as children in other schools until they all come together to attend the state-of-the-art 5-6 Academy at WEBB. It's the right thing to do for our students, our homes, and our community, and pragmatically, it's going to make it easier for us to pass this referendum. What's not similar to last time is the remarkable reimbursement rate we're receiving. We were more like 50% there, and this is, you know, we won't see the likes of this again. 3 schools for the price of 1. It is something that, with rising costs of construction, it really is a deal that we can't afford to pass up. I will comment on the referendum date. Our high school referendum essentially had its own date. Our turnout was great. People were committed to it. We had a very robust turnout. I believe that an issue like this, it's a big issue. It deserves its own spotlight. It's going to allow for us to focus on this and get this done. And so I'm really appreciative of having this in September. And then finally, I just want to thank the school, give a special thank you to each and every member of our advisory building committee. I don't know if everyone is aware of the expertise that they brought in across the board. We had 2 folks who were really experts in the construction industry, somebody who came as a former elected official, actually we had 2 former elected officials and a current elected official who've served, people who've been involved with town government, with finance related to construction, in nonprofit leadership and an entrepreneur, people who have real life experience in exactly this, and we're able to ask all the right questions. We're able to understand exactly how this should come together. And, you know, kind of, it was a group that their talents were greater than each part. What is that saying? You know what I mean. So anyway, I appreciate them. It was a lot of work. It wasn't always an easy road. And I just appreciate how much the time and energy they gave to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you. Anybody else before we go to Attorney Ritter to answer some of the questions? Sorry, I didn't see your hand at first.
Oh, it's okay. Hi, I'm Tracy Scott Sesko, 16 Belmont Street. I wasn't going to get up because other people have made the comments a lot, so I didn't want to be duplicative. But I think when we're talking about the language, I have a couple points that weren't made that I want to be sure. I do think the location of the HIGHCREST Replacement School is super important to be in the language of the referendum question. I also think what's missing is crystal clear language that you are replacing the WEBB Elementary School with a 5th, 6th grade. I know we're using the word academy, but if you look at all of the materials about school systems in Connecticut, that is a middle school. And I think people in Wethersfield that have not been partaking of these meetings and not been reading all of the minutes need to understand that they are talking about a new middle school just for 5th and 6th graders, and that will require redistricting of the whole town, and that people that live in that area may not fully understand where their K through 4 kids will be going over the course of the next several years. So I think it's just clarity to make sure that people that are going to the referendum understand what they're voting for and understand how it's going to play out over that time. And so I think it's just making sure that when you write up this question and have the explanatory notes, it's very, very clear. Right now, I got to be honest with you guys, it does not seem clear to me at all. I think it's very confusing. And to Tom Mazzarella's points, the more confusing that referendum question is, the less votes for it you're going to get. So if you do decide to send it through to referendum, I think we have to clean up the language just a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Tracy. Further public comment? Anyone else before? I don't see anyone else, so I'm going to ask Attorney Ritter to come. Close the public hearing. Thank you. And now we're going to ask Attorney Ritter to address some of the concerns that were brought up, and then we'll go into the regular public comment on any item. So thank you, Attorney Ritter, and thank you for staying around.
My pleasure, and I hope I tried to take notes the best I could. The first question or one of the points that came up is this property and why it's, again, if you say in section 1, and someone talked about language, I'll talk about that in a second. If you say in the first section where it is going to be located, if something were to happen, the bottom of section 1 does not give the town council the right to then change the location without going back to the voters. It allows you to change the scope of the project. I don't think that's the same as the location of the project, right? The scope might mean that it came in over bid and you had to walk back some of the repairs. You didn't have enough money, and you said, you know, geez, we're going to have to get rid of a few bells and whistles we wanted. That's going to the scope of the project. The location is a very specific thing. So I have no opinion as to what you put the bond resolution as what the location of the school is. That's up to you all to decide. But if you specifically say where it's going to be located, I do not believe you can change that without a referendum changing the location. And I don't think the language in section 1 would allow you to do that. I think that speaks to something else. So I think that's the first point. But that's a business decision, not mine, but that's my legal opinion, that if you put it in there, it needs to be there, okay? The second question was about the notice. If the amount had increased, either to the appropriation or the bond authorization, we would have made you re-notify it. There is a string of case law in Connecticut, a Supreme Court case a couple years ago. Tonight's been a very robust public hearing. It was noticed. People understand what the question is. The amount of borrowing was reduced, but for the town people of Wethersfield, it just means they're paying less. And so the constructive notice of the overall appropriation and what the scope of the project is, I think, has been addressed here tonight. It's going to referendum. It's not being decided here tonight. And if you look at case law, and I think reasonable people would say that the public was properly informed, and the only change was the reduction in how much is borrowing, which is to the benefit of Wethersfield taxpayers, not to the harm of Wethersfield taxpayers.
Thank you, Attorney Ritter.
There was also the language about the 5-6 academy and whether that should be specified.
That was
Yeah.
the last point.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that that is mentioned somewhere in some of the documents that are cited in the links and things like that. That's probably, is that talked about at some point? Yeah, so understand that that's all incorporated, right? So sometimes people do question the scope of project or what's supposed to happen. And as bond counsel, when we get asked about that, we go back to the source documents. So the source documents that you have presented to the townspeople, that's what's going to be what's controlling. And if you ask for our opinion, if you made a major deviation from those source documents, we would give you an opinion that says you may not be allowed to do that. So there's incorporation of those documents that gets put into that. You can't have a 9,000-page resolution. You have to draw the line somewhere. But there's no question that that's part of the public conversation, and we would look to those source documents, the building committee, the things they were saying, if someone tried to deviate from that. Yeah.
I think that was it. I think that was the questions that were asked. So thank you, Attorney Ritter. Appreciate it. What's that? Deputy Mayor Forrest?
When you just talked about source documents, are those source documents also included the explanatory text that will go out to the voters? Or is that source documents just prior to, let's say, the vote tonight?
Yeah, so I would look at, I think I'd look at both, right? Ultimately, if someone challenged it and said, the council or whomever, right, is not, we believe it should have been a grade 5, 6 academy, I think is what the town manager said, and that's now not happening, right? So then if you all made that decision somehow, and I'm not saying you would, if somebody were to challenge it, I think you'd have to tell a judge or tell a lawyer, here's all the places they said it was going to be a grade 5, 6 academy. I have source documents, I have meeting minutes, and I have an explanatory text that talks about that. I think, again, as I mentioned about the notice, a reasonable person would say, wait a second, that was very clearly articulated to the voters. This was going to be a grade 5, 6 academy. You can't make that switch or that change. That's not changing the scope of the project, as you see in section 1. That's a substantive major deviation from what the voters were presented. And it's hard. In this day and age, public hearings aren't the way they used to. It's hard to get people to pay attention until the referendum date. And so more and more courts look at these source documents to fill in the picture where you don't have maybe robust public hearings with hundreds of people turning out.
And just so I'm clear, there was a discussion about the notice, and I think it was 140 million. Is it your opinion that that notice is sufficient legal notice for us to be able to move forward?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Forrest. All set?
Yeah, that's it. Very quick and direct.
Yeah, appreciate it. At this point, I thank you, Attorney Ritter. We're going to move on our agenda. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, folks, we're now moving on to regular public comment. You could still comment on this item or any item on our agenda. And I see Steve, I think I saw your hand first in the back. Steve? Again, you have 5 minutes. Please state your name and address, everyone.
I'm Steve Kirsch, 65 Bailey's Lane. I went through the school system. I have 4 kids that went through the system. 1 that's already gone through a grandchild and 8 more from senior to kindergarten. So you know how I'm going to vote. But we shouldn't be here tonight. We should have been here in 2010. And that's what I want to talk about, the process of governance rather than the way we do it now. I served on the town council. My wife did, my son did. We talked about this, talked about it to other council members. And the way we set future capital improvements is horrific. It comes to May 10th where we have to set the budget by May 15th. And the chairman of the majority party has said, boy, we can only increase the mill rate by 2.4 or 1 point, whatever it was. And we come to May 10th, and now finally we're looking at future capital improvements. And we're already, the mayor or the chairman, whatever you want to call him, says, guys, we're there. We don't have any money for capital improvements. So it gets put in the bucket of future years. Future years means it ain't going to get done. And it is extremely frustrating when politics, rather than the future capital needs of the town. The schools are the best example, but there are so many other examples we can go over on things that we're not doing today that we should. And it comes down to the courage to do the right thing. And I could see, I'll pick a party. I'll say the Democrats go up 2 mills, so the Republicans at the next election are saying they went up on taxes and that we got to vote them out of office. Well, The Democrats maybe didn't put enough into the Capitol for what has to get done. So I've been thinking about this. On the Charter Revision Commission, people came up to us and said, well, we need a Board of Finance. Well, with unanimity, we all said, no, the charter is not the place to handle this issue. This is a policy issue, not a government style of issue. And it's up to the council to have the courage to do the right thing. There have been councils that have had more attention than others. But I was lucky enough to be the insurance agent of record for the town. And we would meet every month and talk about insurance issues of the town. Real exciting stuff, trust me. But I would say that it was less important than the capital needs of the town on a long-term basis. Why don't we do that on a monthly basis? Why isn't there the discipline? And I'm not picking on this council. I'm talking just big picture, how to govern our town. I came up, on my first term, I sat with Melissa, who was 9 months old, who's now 46, and there was a problem between the Silas Deane Advisory Task Force and the improvement committee, what they call, help me.
Huddersfield Village Improvement Commission?
Nah, whatever. Anyway, it overlapped, so I said, wait a minute, let's go, Economic Development Commission. Yeah. So let's come up with the Economic Development and Improvement Commission. I changed the name, and we combined both entities, and because there was an overlapping jurisdiction, and we started a new thing. So now I want to suggest we start another thing. Here's how I would ask that you guys consider this. We have 2 people from each party selected to sit on a capital needs board or finance whatever you want to call it. 2 people at large, they're appointed, they're not elected, we have to keep politics out of this, and 1 person from each party, political party. So that's 6 people, with the charge of reporting to the town on an annual basis where we are. I mean, what's the future value of the or the current value of the future cost of, say, a new roof on the police station? Some year we're going to come up with that. If there's a way to put in exactly what we need all along, and I have one of our kids is a teacher in town. I promised I wouldn't tell her all the stuff that she has to deal with as a teacher. It kind of was mentioned before. But we have so many things. Underground, who are our pipes? Our pipes are going to go at some point. And there's no money in the till for that, or no consideration of that. So we have to sit down and go over what our needs are every year and what's the current value of that, and then have the guts to put it in the budget. If you lose the election, you lose the election. As I look back on my term...
Thank you, Steve. I'm going to ask you to summarize because the 5 minutes are up. But
all right, well,
thank you.
I'm done. I mean, I think you get the picture.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Steve. Thank you, Steve. Further public comment? Yep. Oh, in the back. Yeah. You got your Yankees hat on, Wethersfield? All right.
Steve Kelly, 29 Old Smithy Lane. I think most everybody here wants to see this project get done. But there's a lot of concerns out there that people have that, you know, tend to want to make them vote no. In no special order, one of them is holding the referendum on the date. Now, as I understood it we were explained to us back then, well, we need to get in line. But now, thanks to our representatives, we have a commitment of money, which is great. I mean, as a taxpayer, everybody's in favor of that. Why, you know, they're questioning, well, why is the town council not going to do it during the election, the regular election? And, you know, they say, well, they're afraid to make it an election issue. I said, well, maybe. But it's going to save $20,000. And like in the big picture, yeah, that's small. But But that, in the budget, it's not small. There's a million things that come up. Hey, you know, these kids want this down at that rec center. Well, we don't have the $2,000. Well, if you got that $20,000 that you saved, all of a sudden you have the ability to do that. The other thing that came up when our representatives announced that we were getting all this money, a lot of them question, and I don't know the answer, Mr. Ritter probably will. I'm guessing somebody keeps track of how much money goes to each town over a period of years. Because I'm pretty sure the people out in eastern Connecticut really don't give a damn about Wethersfield schools and, you know, well, you guys let them decay. You know, why are we handing you all this money? So they question, are we like forfeiting a lot of money down the road? That's one of them. The other thing is about, we're going to vote on 3 schools, and they said all of a sudden Hamner School, which during all the previous conflicts we had here, was loaded with mold and mildew. They had a fire supposedly. It's the worst school going. All of a sudden now it's going to be the last school done. So they say there's going to be an awful lot of money coming up in future budgets to keep that school up. So they're saying, why isn't that one still being done up at the top, at the beginning, as opposed to, say, Charles Wright, which the superintendent of schools then was ready to just flush down the drain. These are the things that are going to get more. I mean, everybody here, like I said, if these are all the people that are going to vote yes, that's not enough people. There are a lot of people out there that are all no voters, and they're not coming here to warn you. But those are all issues that are going to have to be addressed. And I think the main one is, as Mr. Woodward pointed out, move the vote, get more people out, and, you know, get the thing passed. But there's a lot of things you're going to have to explain. And I don't know, Mr. Ritter sort of put the kebab on that. I don't know how you're going to explain it. I mean, you have to explain it neutrally. You know, and one of the things is you have 3 schools on the first plan, regardless of who they are. Shouldn't you specify how much is for each school? Because somebody did bring up a point. What if all the money gets spent on the first 2? What happens to school number 3? There's just a lot of questions, and you guys are going to be the guys that get the blame. It's not going to be the building committee. It's never going to be the Board of Education. You guys are going to get, you know, they're going to blame you guys, whether it is your fault or not. So I just think you have a lot of work to do to, you know, if you're going to sell this, you got to sell it the right way. And I never even thought of the wording of the, I hadn't heard anything about that until they mentioned it tonight. Could they possibly move that school, you know, to the other side of Highland Street, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the kind of stuff you have to make sure people are clear on, you know, whether you can or you can't. That's it.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you. Further public comment. I see Connor and then I see Tom. Connor and then Tom, you're up on deck.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Connor Geary. I live at 3 Somerset Street, and I've owned that home for about 8 years now. I apologize, I was late to the room. I was putting our 8-month-old today and our 2.5-year-old down to bed. And so I just want to implore anyone who's listening that as a resident of this town for a number of years, including before I was a parent, it is mine and my wife's plan to remain long-term residents of this town.
So Connor, I'm just going to interrupt you. And just the council.
I apologize. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm used to crowds. Sorry about that.
We know, and you're good at it. Yeah.
And you're good at it.
And you're great. Yeah.
And I just want to say, in terms of the iterations of this plan and headed into the referendum, I want to commend those responsible for the organizing on the amount of listening that I think was done from my vantage point, that what's before us now in terms of the promise of Wethersfield education for the next generations to come is strong. I remain in full support of it. And I think when I go out and I talk to a lot of people and people ask where I'm from and I say that I'm from the town of Wethersfield, eyebrows go up all the time. People know about our charm, they know about our character, they know it's a great place to be. What I'd like to do next is to invite parents like myself, including those with young children, to come to this town and to get their kids educated. And I look forward to what our girls will benefit from, certainly. I understand I'm a user of what we're talking about here. That's not lost on me, but I'm here with pride, and I just thank everyone for the amount of listening that's gone into this planning. Thank you.
Thank you, Connor. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Tom, I got you next.
Tom Mazzarola, 600 Walcott Hill Road. All these tough acts to follow. Nobody claps for me. I'm starting to get a complex. So going back to my school comments. The Hartford Current Sunday's paper. There's an article on the front page. Amid low civic engagement, referendums fail to inspire. I don't know if any of you had a chance to read it. It talks about how people just don't want to bother coming out for a referendum. I think you have a much better shot at having a referendum where the people are going to come out for two reasons. One for the referendum and one to vote for their municipal election. We had a referendum on Keisha that coincided with a general election, I believe. And I think there was 11,000, roughly 11,000 votes cast on that. 65 to 5 something or whatever. So people will come out. My concern is that you want to have a separate election because you want to target a certain group of people. And that's not what democracy is all about. We're hearing that every day. All you hear about is democracy, democracy. Well, part of that is getting the information out to all the residents, all the registered voters, and giving them all the information so they can make an informed decision and come out to vote. And there are people that are concerned that all the people that are concerned about their taxes going up will vote no. And that may be the case, but that's the way it's supposed to work. You get the maximum amount of votes that you can get, and it falls where it falls. You don't target a certain group, and you're going to have the PTOs, whatever they call them nowadays. You're going to have them sending out flyers to all the student population, all the parents. So you got 3,600 students. Maybe you have 2,500 parents voting. They're all going to come out and vote. Well, if you tell them to come out and vote on election day, November 4th, they're still going to come out. So I don't see what the problem is. You're making yourselves look bad because the appearance is that you don't care about the pocket change of $20,000. Now, I have some experience with referendums. We had a special referendum. A lot of people in the town government thought this is an absolute waste of time, money, is not going anywhere. And we still got the voters to come out, even though this says they won't come out. So you're going to have people pushing the certain select group to come out and vote for this thing. Now, this is not a special referendum. This is just a normal bond referendum. You only have to win by 1 vote. There's no minimum. You don't need 5%. You don't need X amount of no votes to sink it. You got to win by 1 vote. So I really think having it at the general election, November 4th, sends a message to the public that you all care about how taxpayer dollars are spent. The only other comment I'm going to try and squeak in a minute is this resolution has no money in it for improvements to the existing HIGHCREST school, which you're going to have online for 10 years, 8 to 10, maybe 11, I'm not sure exactly. We've heard how horrendous that building is, with leaks, with mold, with asbestos, with rodents, with everything. It's crumbling. And now you're going to take a new group of kids from another location, and you're going to send them into this crappy school with no plans. You just heard from Steve Kirsch. There's no extra money in capital budget to put a new roof on HIGHCREST. I think you need to spend $5-6 million to get that school up to livable standards, according to what the residents are saying, even though you're going to knock it down in 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Further public comment? Sarah?
Sarah Gantley, 16 The Cartway. It seems like despite saying we all know the schools need to be redone, some will grasp at straws and pick every single thing apart. There's just no pleasing some people. Those people are never going to vote for this. As a WEBB parent, I can tell you, WEBB parents, we know what this plan entails, and we're all for it because our schools are falling apart. The ability, never underestimate the ability of the PTO and especially moms to put out information. We're really, really good at that. The appearance of having a separate date from my perspective is that our schools are so important, the safety of our children is so important that we have a special day and a special vote. And so maybe some people might think that that's wasteful, but I think that preserving the safety of our children and the future of our schools is well worth that. So we, as the parents, as fellow concerned citizens, we will get this done. We will get the information out to people. We need the council to do your part today, but leave the rest of it to us and we'll get it done.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Further public comment? Bob, Mr. Woodward, I saw your hand.
Thank you. Time to switch to something else. My name is Bob Woodward, 456 Middletown Avenue here in Wethersfield. I followed most of the hearings with the Department of Public Health on the ambulance service. Didn't see them all entirely, but watched part of, I think, all but one or two. Came away with the feeling that there were two non-legal facets that were probably more important than all the legal facets, and that a lot of lawyers got paid a heck of a lot of money for those hearings. One is communication. And my sense was, after listening to communication between the ambulance service and the town, and I'll put it on both sides, broke down. And when communication breaks down, a lot of things happen that aren't good. The other thing was a sense, the other facet is a sense of the town and the ambulance being a team together. And that broke down. And if I'd have made a decision on that hearing, I would have said you need to appoint someone to mediate and moderate and get you back to communicating and being a sense of a team. And of course, that didn't happen. But then I found out that some time ago, before Mr. Presley was here, and I don't know when, there was actually a committee, a small committee, that worked between the town and the ambulance service. Somewhere the committee was disbanded, leading to a lack of communication and a lack of being a team. And I want to ask that somewhere you get a small group together, someone to convene, maybe the state wants to come in and mediate and moderate, and ask the state for a year to let the town and the ambulance get some communication, start seeing if they can communicate in a timely way, be a team, play as a team, and start answering the questions that are being raised on both sides. Is Aetna the only ambulance? Why did Wethersfield Volunteer Ambulance become Wethersfield EMS? And a whole bunch of other questions out there. And let the state come in and mediate and moderate it. I think it would be good for both the town and the ambulance. And I hope that somebody in the town can do something to promote communication and a sense of teamwork between the town and the ambulance. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Further public comment. Mr. Young? Mr. Young, you're up. I didn't see anyone on this side. Dennis, I have you right after Mr. Young. You're on deck. Mr. Young, you're up.
Good evening, Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. First of all, I think the school system or the school analysis for building and renovating is extremely high. I think that even though we're getting this extra bump on the referendum, or I should say reimbursement rate, which really brings up a heck of a question. How did we get from 50% reimbursement to 70s, in the 70s for reimbursement? How did we really get there? And then how did we get Tom Ritter as bond counsel? That sends a cloud across, I think, all over creation to think about. Is this a way of funneling a job to somebody for the privilege of getting the contracts, or I should say the bond referendums through? Is there some kind of in-between between our Democratic delegation, all those members, and Mr. Ritter, who is top dog in, what, the Senate? It really sends a message. Now, I'm going to switch gears. Over the last several meetings, first of all, maybe 2 meetings ago, Ms. Carbone had talked about the old academy down in Old Weathersfield, and she had some questions and went on, and it went into the Kinney Center and all of that nonsense that goes on. And I got up here after her talk, and I made some comments. I made some comments at the last one, and of course I never get finished. So here we go. The society, that's the Weathersfield Historical Society, has the ability to earn rental revenue from the Kinney Center. The Kinney Center that they pay the town of Weathersfield $100 a year. The revenue from the Kinney Center is earned from room rentals, which totaled $52,000 and $57,000 in the year 2022 and 23. Think about that for a second. They got $52,000 one year and $57,000 the next year in room rentals, and they're paying us $100 a year. In addition, they sublease a room, one room, to the Weathersfield Chamber of Commerce for $500 a month. That is $6,000 a year. That includes heat, hot water, electric, insurance, which we taxpayers pay. They piggyback on us. They became, I hate to say the word, I'm not going to say the word, but anyway, they became someone who used us, okay? Then, also they get the Deming Standish House, which is also leased from the town of Weathersfield for a period of 50 years. And during those 50 years, in the beginning, they were getting $2,600 a month rent. We, of course, were only getting $100 a year. This is $2,600 a month. Then, a couple years later, they're getting $3,000 per month. We're only getting $100 per month. And we're paying a lot of cost. We're taking care of the property. Then we go into the rental income from the Standish Deming House now is at $53,000 almost 54,000 in the year 2022, and $55,500 in the year 2023, and I don't have 24 yet, okay? But then they have projected income. They're projecting rental income for the Standish House of $71,000, I'm sorry, in the year 2025, it's going to be $58,000. In the year 2026, it's going to be $60,000. I'm rounding this off. In the year 2027, $62,000. And in 2028, they're going to get $64,000
Thank you,
per
Mr.
their
Young. I'm gonna
financial
ask you to
statement.
summarize.
I'm going to come back, Mayor, because I always have to come back.
Thank you, Mr.
Because
Young.
you don't want to hear about this.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Further public comment. I think, Dennis, you had your hand up next. Thank you, Mr. Young.
Good evening, folks. Dennis McMahon, 655 Highland Street. I'm the WEMSA ambulance chief. I've been an EMT for 41 years in town. I obviously started when I was 12 years old, but I'm going to make my comments brief and to the point, but blunt. When I was first chief back in the 80s, I pushed for Aetna to be our partner. I love the Grady family and they became our partners. But now that we are trying to expand, the current and soon-to-be ex-Aetna president says to me, Dennis, you are not our partner, you are our competitor. When we started to slowly expand, I advised Aetna and the town every step of the way. It was our right to expand. Aetna knew it was our right to expand, but they said we needed to meet with the town manager. I said, absolutely. I agreed. Those meetings never took place. Everyone who knows me knows I'm always ready to talk. The town started this case behind our back and with no input from the citizens. The town directly misled us about their intentions. The town intentionally shut us out, speaking only with Aetna for many months behind closed doors. Rather than to support WEMSA, the town sided with a large for-profit corporation. We are a small nonprofit. When I asked the town for $250,000 to help us expand, I was promised it would be recommended in the budget. Just a few months later, I was told it would not be recommended. And it cost the town and Aetna approximately $1 million in legal fees and costs to obtain this proposed decision. The town paid more than $500,000 during the last half of 2024 alone. Those monies could have gone a long way to help the schools. Without any help from the town, we were put in a box. A purely volunteer ambulance cannot survive riding just overnights and weekends. We were forced to start paying our EMTs, our riding members, $21 an hour. $5 more than the minimum. It's not much, but it's something. Newington survives because the town gives them $90,000, a building free of charge, and 2 new ambulances worth $495,000. Rocky Hill survives because the town gives them a free building and a subsidy of about $135,000. In Wethersfield, we get no subsidy. We pay for our ambulances, we pay for everything, and we pay rent to the town for our building. And we paid Aetna about $150,000 during 2023 for paramedic backup. Again, the town paid nothing. With Aetna, our citizens are going to have a bigger bill for a ride, $200 to $300 per call. Many elderly patients on fixed incomes can't afford this huge increase. If a patient on a fixed income cannot pay their balance, I tear up the bill. I promise you that that would not be the policy with a for-profit corporation. And it is simply naive to think that Aetna is going to provide these services for nothing long term. One of their owners is in bankruptcy now. Once our doors close, they will buy their time for a few years and then say, you know, we can't do it for free anymore. We need $500,000, $1 million, or whatever it happens to be. And that's going to ultimately result in even higher taxes. Aetna already demanded that the town pay $500,000 back in 2023 to allow us to even stay in town. And all of a sudden they will do it for nothing. That's absolutely ridiculous, and we all know it. They will say whatever they have to get their foot in the door and widen their monopoly. No matter what anyone says, my ambulance does not rely on mutual aid. We have 3 ambulances town dedicated solely to Wethersfield. They have only one, often coming from outside of Wethersfield. Our response times have been great. Without us, the response times are going to get worse. Aetna is already struggling to cover Hartford. You may recall the case in 2023 where in Hartford, where the baby had no pulse and was not breathing. Aetna had no ambulance. A police officer had to drive the baby to the hospital with a firefighter performing CPR on him in the back seat. That poor baby died. And just last week in Wethersfield, one of my crews responded to a patient having a stroke. We called Aetna for a paramedic, and once again, no ambulance was available. My crew rushed him to the hospital to get him the critical care he needs. Only because we were there for him in time is he now doing well. It is not appropriate for the town to hide behind the state to let them make the decision about EMS. This is a town decision that should be solved by the town. The EMS system we currently have in place works. WMSA is now handling 85% of the 911 calls. The state decision is only a proposal. It is not final, and we intend to appeal. I think I'm about at 5 minutes, so I'm going to summarize, Mr. Mayor. I call upon the town council to withdraw the case, to reinstate the EMS committee, and to sit down with both parties and come to an agreement. Financial help would be needed, but it is a small price to pay. Our elderly and disabled citizens deserve...
I'm going to ask you to summarize, Dennis. I figure you're coming to the end. Please.
Our elderly and disabled citizens deserve prompt emergency care when they need it, not 5 minutes later. Whatever side of the aisle you are on, it takes guts and hard work to get on the town council. Knocking on hundreds of doors, attending countless events,
Dennis, I'm going to ask you to, you can, we do have another public comment, but to be fair to everybody, we have a certain time limit. If you have one more sentence or something, that's good. If not, you're free to come back during the next public comment.
I will say this. We have served during the Ebola crisis, during the AIDS crisis, during the COVID crisis. We were happy to do it despite the risk. Don't be part of the town council that allows their well-run, highly trained, and dedicated ambulance service to close after 70 years of service. Going down this road is a recipe for disaster.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you. Further public comment? Yes.
My name is Kellyanne Clerk, and I'm at 54 Hillsdale Avenue. I want to thank the town council members and Mr. Presley for the opportunity to speak this evening. I'm speaking on the proposed change to our EMS services here in the town of Wethersfield. The running theme of every town council meeting I attended this past year has been lack of transparency. From the Keisha Farm Millwoods debacle to the Blue Flag fiasco. And for over a year, what has been going on between Wethersfield EMS, Aetna, and the town? Taxpayers had no idea their dedicated ambulance of almost 70 years next year would be replaced with a for-profit ambulance service owned by Hartford Hospital and Prospect Medical Holdings, who have filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. It concerns me about the viability of Aetna ambulance service. Chief McMahon came back to WMSA as chief after our past chief was found guilty of impropriety and turned the then volunteer organization from possible ruin to a thriving organization that provides 24/7 service to our town with 3 dedicated ambulances. WMSA provides town coverage at no cost to local activities, sporting events, including WHS home football games. WMSA does not charge fees to the town and are available for town events. But in December of 2024, all that changed when the town manager and this council neglected to inform taxpayers that could all change. It took a social media post that I made 3 months after the town filed with the Department of Public Health just to sound the alarm. Again, another example of blatant lack of transparency. As for leadership, which also seems to be lacking, we have a town manager and council that appear to invest in profits over people. A good leader would have tried to broker a meeting between both entities in the town. That never happened. Anyone who knows Chief McMahon, he's always willing to talk. The moment that Aetna stated that WMSA was no longer a partner but their competitor should have been when the town council and the town manager stepped up to work with both entities to ensure cost-effective, consistent, and timely medical care would be available to those in the town of Wethersfield. Instead of doing that, you fueled the fire and dealt with the entities separately. Again, this is an example of poor leadership of our town manager and council. Between the lack of transparency and poor leadership skills, this council has lost trust in our town. WEMSA is here for the citizens, and that is their #1 priority, and it always has been. Please explain to me how response times will be better. WEMSA arrives before Aetna for the majority of the time, which we have heard from many townspeople. WEMSA crew members know the severity of issues and take action. Also explain to me how you can ensure that we as taxpayers will not see a major tax increase if Aetna should take over and be the sole EMS coverage for this town. I've sat on the EMS committee, which is now disbanded for no reason, or reasons unknown. I've been through 4 negotiations with Aetna as assistant chief and as a board member. And I know that Aetna will give this town a 0 bid for a few years, but once they have the PSAR, Wethersfield residents will be stuck with this company and at their mercy. After all, they are a for-profit corporation and profits are their bottom line. WEMSA is a nonprofit and has been here for 70 years and has not increased our town taxes. As a taxpayer of over 35 years and a member of WEMSA, now WEMSA for over 20 years, I'm ashamed and appalled to say that I am from Wethersfield. We will not give up protecting those who live in, work in, and travel through Wethersfield. This town council has made Wethersfield the national laughingstock with the blue line flag fiasco. We will not back down from this fight. The council's lack of transparency and poor leadership will be your legacy. Remember that, and I hope the town's taxpayers remember that come November.
Thank you, Kelly. Further public comment? Yes, sir, in the back.
My name is Jimmy Clerk. I live at 54 Hillsdale Avenue here in Wethersfield. Long-time listener, first-time caller. A lot of people have showed up and read off of written statements. I'm going to give you guys some facts about this WEMSA and Aetna case. Earlier, and about 1.5 years ago, my sister had a medical emergency at the house. You want to know who showed up first? WEMSA did. You want to know who didn't show up? Aetna. This year, my grandfather had a medical emergency. When he showed up at the hospital, they said he was circling the drain. You want to know who showed up? WEMSA did. You want to know who didn't show up? Aetna. If this town council had gotten their way and gotten rid of WEMSA when this hearing started, make no mistake, my grandfather today would be dead. And the fact that this town council seems to prioritize profits over patients makes me sick. And you guys should be ashamed of yourselves that you continue this fight when WEMSA has served this community for 70 years, dedicated to only this town.
Thank you, Jimmy. Further public comment? Anyone else? Yes, in the back. Yep.
Good evening. Isha Gandhi, 67 Shelley Lane, Glastonbury. Dear members of the Wethersfield community, my name is Isha Gandhi, and I serve as an EMT for the town of Wethersfield, particularly in WEMSA. I am also a pre-medical student at the University of Connecticut, dedicating my academic and professional path to medicine, patient care, and public health. I'm writing today because WEMSA, our town's trusted nonprofit ambulance service, is in danger of being replaced, and our community cannot afford the consequences. For nearly 70 years, WEMSA has been a pillar of Wethersfield's emergency response system. It is more than a service. It is a deeply rooted, community-driven organization built on trust, speed, and compassion. Recently, the town proposed replacing WEMSA with Aetna Ambulance, a large not-for-profit company owned in part by a corporation currently in bankruptcy. This decision was made behind closed doors and without community input, despite the serious risk it posed to public safety. As an EMT, I respond exclusively to 911 emergencies in Wethersfield, ranging from cardiac arrests and motor vehicle collisions to behavioral health crises. On any given shift, I work alongside my dedicated team and paramedics from Aetna to deliver critical pre-hospital care, assess patients from head to toe, and initiate basic life support. I average about 3 emergency calls per shift, each one unpredictable, high stakes, and deeply human. WEMSA supports us with 3 ambulances in town at all times. Aetna, by contrast, has only have 1 ambulance for Wethersfield, dispatched from outside of our town. This is unacceptable. When a medical emergency strikes, minutes matter. Delays in care can cost lives. WEMSA knows our community. We live here, we work here, and we are accountable to the people that we serve. Unlike other towns, WEMSA receives no municipal funding. We purchase our own ambulances and equipment, and we even pay rent to the town. We operate out of a commitment to care, not corporate price. This is what true community-based emergency medicine looks like. As a future physician, I've been taught to advocate for my patients both at bedside and beyond. Today, I'm doing just that, standing up for my town, my patients, and my fellow colleagues. Please stand with us. Stand with WEMSA and help us preserve the safety, integrity, and humanity of emergency care in Wethersfield. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Further public comment? Yes, ma'am, in the back. Yep.
Teotola, 59 Stonegate Drive.
You want to just bring the mic down a little, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, go ahead.
Good evening, members of the council, neighbors, and friends. Thank you all for your presence and time tonight. My name is Taya, and I am a Wethersfield neighbor here. I've lived in this town for most of my life. I graduated Wethersfield High School in 2022, and I am an incoming senior at the University of Connecticut, also aspiring to become a physician. Tonight, I speak as a profound member of WEMSA, as a certified EMT and one of your neighbors within the Wethersfield community. To start, let me share something with you all that I hold personal. In November of 2022, my father had an acute medical emergency. He was having trouble breathing, struggling with shortness of breath and chest pain. He couldn't even begin to describe the fear in his eyes that he couldn't breathe properly. Aetna responded, but due to multiple crews stretched thin across multiple towns, there was a burden wait, and all I could do was wait. I didn't know what to do at the time, and neither did the rest of my family. When help was needed, help wasn't there on time. That wait could have costed him his life. This is not hypothetical, and this is real. This is personal, and for many families in this town, it will become personal too. I share this with you all not for pity, but rather to provide a foreshadowing of what could occur if our town ambulance shuts down. The traumatic event, however, served as a catalyst for me to go to EMT school and become an EMT to serve my community. However, my heart breaks more and more as I find out that not everyone in this field may have the same intentions as I do. Some catastrophic decisions being made in healthcare, a field that I aspire to work in today, will not allow me to remain silent. Big changes are happening in Wethersfield EMS coverage. I can say with confidence, these changes are not going to be for the better. The state has proposed a controversial request to replace Wethersfield's long-standing EMS provider with Aetna, a commercial ambulance company that's partially owned by Hereford Healthcare. This is a concerning decision, not just amongst EMTs and paramedics, but amongst the very people who rely on fast, compassionate, and competent care when seconds count, which is our residents, especially those with multiple medical issues. As someone who's worked in emergency medicine, I'm deeply frustrated, though sadly not surprised. Our BLS crews have worked side by side with Aetna's medics, and together we provided seamless care for most of our critical patients. But the decision about who shows up when someone dials 911 should never be about market share or contracts or corporate interest. It should be about one thing, and that is the patient, and only the patient. Too often, healthcare is treated like a business, not the public service it's supposed to be to our people. EMS is one of the clearest and most dangerous examples of this. The spread of indifference in a field that must be driven by compassion and commitment and heart is more than frustrating. It's frightening. It's heartbreaking to watch high-performing local teams being pushed aside no matter how hard they work, how well they serve, or how deeply they care. This isn't just a Wethersfield problem, it could soon be systemic, and our other neighboring towns like Glastonbury, Newington, and Rocky Hill may be next in the next couple of years. Medicine's at its best when we work together. When we combine forces, we may bring the best of outcomes. We shouldn't be kicking dedicated crews to the curb. We shouldn't be taking jobs away from people who've committed their lives to this work, and above all, we should not be compromising patient care. Right now, WEMSA does keep 3 ambulances in Wethersfield at all times, whereas Aetna has only committed to keeping 1 truck that's sometimes posted in town, but sometimes may have to take calls outside of Wethersfield. Like Dennis stated, without us, that creates risk, that creates delays, and in emergency medicine, delays do cost lives. We are already seeing burnout among first responders, and when we take local crews out of the picture, we're placing even more strain on those who remain. We're not building a better system, we're breaking the one that we have already. So tonight, I'm asking you, as town leaders, as neighbors, and as people who care about this community, I'm asking you the hard questions. What are we really going to gain from this change? Who's going to benefit from this change, and who's going to suffer the losses? And would you feel comfortable waiting for a longer ambulance if it was your mother, your child, or your friend in a crisis? So thank you for your time and for listening. Not just to me, but to the people that you were elected to serve. Not for the corporate companies. I anticipate to build bridges and work together to serve our people better. Thank you all tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further public comment? Ryan, I see you. Christine, did you have your hand up? Christine, yep. Ryan, you're up. And then Christine.
Ryan Biggs, 24 McMullen Avenue. Good evening, council. I don't miss that chair, but I kind of do miss that chair, but not these nights. And you know, the one thing I love is that we have new technology. Where was this when I was on council? This would have saved a lot of long nights. But speaking to technology and walking into the future, when it comes to the schools, I think so many times where we sat on council, we make a lot of decisions to put patches on our schools. We've heard several people come here tonight about a father, his kids, and now his grandkids. And the schools are in the same condition based off of what he said. Not my experience, his. We hear that, and I don't know how any person that's in their right mind can hear that and say, let's keep those same schools. We need to look to the future. I guess I'm not good enough for Channel 3. But we need to speak to the future and really think about our children. As the adults in this community, our responsibility, our moral responsibility is to the future. The kids are our future. My kids, 9 years old, 6 years old, 1.5, their future. I will do what I need to make sure they have a proper education. If that means investing into a new school or me putting them into a better school so they could have a better education. Sometimes, yes, we've had conversations about, well, the place you're learning in doesn't matter. You can learn in a 8x8 room versus a 2020 room. Let's really think about that. We've increased technology. We talk about transparency. One thing that I love about transparency that we did not have when I was on council is that I can open up today's agenda and I could click that link and see everything we're talking about today. That's a form of transparency we did not have before. We're now stepping into the future. So anyone can get on their phone right now and send it out to everyone that they know in town, whether they're opposed or whether they're for it. It doesn't matter. This isn't about a political issue, Democrat versus Republican. This is about what are we doing that's benefiting the children that are going to grow up in this town, and we want to secure them to stay in this town and continue to build their families in this town. So I hope that everything that has been presented to you, that you look at it. You've already looked at it. Hopefully you have a very positive decision to now get it out of this chamber and let the voters in town vote and not make it a political thing. And then secondly, anytime we can have a local emergency response team, I support that. I don't know the full details, and I will say that in all humbleness, but whatever the decision came up to, if there's a way to find a way to support our local emergency response teams, I will 100% back it. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you. Christine?
Christine Kelly Lasella, 37 Belmont Street. I want to encourage you to change the text of this referendum. I talked about it 2 weeks ago, and I heard the attorney explain why. I'm not doing this. So that being said, people have gotten up here, people are talking in town. I talk to a lot of people. I don't ask them questions. They tell me it would be a shame for this referendum to fail because it wasn't specific. When there was conversation about the school being put at Stillman Field behind the Board of Ed building, there was 4 acres that it was going to go in. There was no, I understand there was no preliminary referendum written, but it was pretty specific where it was going to go. So I just encourage you, the land that was formerly Keisha parcel, if you get that in that referendum, and also the explanatory text to talk about WEBB and what it is, because there are so many people that don't understand it. I'm for the schools being renovated, but if this doesn't, if somebody says, well, I'm not voting for it, I don't understand it, or they're going to switch it, they're going to move it, then it's a big fail, and then this was all for nothing. Connecticut State Historic Preservation Office, I had more than one conversation with a woman there. I'll have an answer for you tomorrow. Highland Street is not a historic district. I did ask the question of the head of SHPO when I had conversations with her, and she said no, if anything was found there, that would not prohibit a building from going there. I will confirm that. I don't want to say that that's 100%. And I'm pretty sure that the architects would do a preliminary archaeological survey like they said they did, like a phase 1. And again, I'm just standing here saying this, the specifics need, people want to hear what's going on. And I think changing the date to the regular election, if this is going to pass in September, it's going to pass in November. And $20,000, $25,000 for many people is a lot of money, and that could be the difference of, I don't know, a security guard at one of the schools. And so I just want to encourage you guys, you know, I'm all for this. This isn't, you know, batting the ball around going, oh no, this isn't a good idea. So I'm just sharing that with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Further public comment? Anyone else? Going once? Yeah, Lauren?
Thank you. Lauren Rhines, 366 Ridge Road. For those of you who don't know me, I work all day in local government. And then at night, I volunteer in the town of Wethersfield. I've served on the insurance committee for the town as president of the Emerson PTO, chaired dozens of Emerson events and committees and projects, and most recently served as the vice chair on the school advisory building committee. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the building committee for all of their hard work, our elected officials, our state delegates, TSKP and Downs, and of course the staff liaisons, Sally Katz and Angie Mole, who were instrumental and fantastic. I volunteered to serve in the building committee because I wanted to lend my voice to make Wethersfield a town that my children want to stay in. Despite what you might think, it's not because I'm not capable of saying no. I grew up further south in another town in Connecticut, and I knew from a very young age that I did not want to end up in that town. I didn't want to be a grown-up there. I didn't want to raise my kids there. Conversely, my in-laws grew up here. They met at Wethersfield High School and eventually raised my fantastic husband, who left earlier this evening to go home to our kids so I can spend another night
We'll
out
tell
of the
them you
house.
said that, Lauren. Sorry to interrupt you.
I was like, this is being recorded, right? So I can spend another night out of the house in the name of our community. And a community that will suffer if we don't address our schools, the physical buildings, and the equity of our classrooms. It's not okay that my son's kindergarten classroom at Emerson was constantly leaking, and it's not okay that my daughter's 6th grade classroom this year at Emerson had 26 students to 1 teacher. That's not equity among our schools. My children won't see the new schools, but I know that investing in our town will make this a place that they will want to bring their families back to. I can't stress enough the thought that went into the work of the building committee. We listened to the anecdotal data from the prior failed referendum, to the town, and especially to each other. We valued transparency, held public meetings, sent our consultants out to the community for community events, voted on a plan, heard concerns about that plan, had more meetings, pivoted the plan, and brought a different recommendation forward to the council. And we're asking that the council take that recommendation and bring the referendum to the voters of the town. I have faith in the process to date. I have faith in this council to let the voters' voices be heard, to clarify and reiterate answers in the explanatory text. I have faith in the bond council and their expertise, and I have faith in our neighbors to come out on September 16th and make an educated vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Further public comment? Anyone else from the public? Going once? Going twice? So I want to say thank you. Well, everyone spoke with passion, how much you care about these issues, whatever you spoke on, we appreciate it. That's democracy. We're here to listen to you, and we appreciate it. We are going to move on in our agenda now to council reports. Does any councilor have a report to give this evening? Seeing none, we are going to move on to the next item on our agenda, councilor comments. Does any councilor have a comment tonight or comments they'd like to make? I will make a few that, Councilor Rhodes.
Just a brief comment. One of the things that I've been thinking about over the last couple of weeks in particular is change and how hard change is. For lots of reasons. It's also inevitable. You know, you've heard the only thing that is guaranteed is death and taxes, right? Those are things that are constantly changing. Somebody's gonna die every day. It just is, it's life, like that's gonna happen to us. And taxes happen. It's how we support our community. It's how we support our schools. It's how we fix our infrastructure. It's how we make those capital improvements that need to be made. So change is hard, it's inevitable, and it's an opportunity. We have this incredible opportunity to change these schools for the future. Incredible opportunity. The situation with WEMSA, it's sad, and there's a lot of misinformation out there, and there needs to be, there's access. You have access to all of the information. You might have to look it up. You might have to call the town manager's office and say, hey, I'd like to see some of the documentation. You can access it. So if you want to know the details, ask for it. You can get it. But there's also an opportunity for how do we change the model to move forward with what is going to work best for the town. And it may be that what's been going on for the last 70 years doesn't fit anymore. So it doesn't mean we throw it all out. It means that we change. We get creative. We come together. We have conversations. We don't tell other people who are serving, who are volunteering, that they are underhanded, that they are manipulative, that they are liars, that they are not transparent. That's not how you get people to have conversations with you. You invite them to the table. You trust that just like you are doing the best you can, they are doing the best they can. And that's how we take these change opportunities and we transform our community into a place that we can be so incredibly proud of going forward. And so that, as our last speaker, as Lauren said, that her children want to come back to, that they want to raise their families here. Last thing, my husband teaches at the high school. He's seen decades of children go through, and one of the reasons we finally decided to make the move here was because he kept seeing his former students who moved away, went to college, had adventures, come back here to raise their families. And that doesn't happen in so many towns and communities. And we don't continue that legacy if we don't invest in our children and in our families and in our community by having civil conversations with each other. So I challenge all of you that if there's information out there that you're seeing on social media, that you're seeing wherever, and it feels a little bit wonky to you, go to the source and ask for the real information. Don't just listen to hearsay. Get the information. Look up the documents. Read it. Understand what's going on. But don't call the people who serve in this community, either as volunteers or as staff, horrible, mean, manipulative people. It's not okay, and it's been happening over and over and over and over again. And every person serving up here, every person on our boards and our commissions are serving because they want to and because they love this community. And this is the last night that I can take listening to all of those people be accused of being awful people. So I ask you to stop and to check yourself before you accuse other people who are serving your community of being liars, of being cheats. I challenge you to check yourself. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rhodes. Further council comments? I have three things, but they're more on events, but it's important for you guys to know about these things. One that just happened and two that are about to happen. So last Wednesday night on June 11th, Wethersfield received special recognition. We were one of only 3 towns in the entire state of Connecticut, Wethersfield, West Hartford, and Newtown. We were awarded what's called the Wellspring Award for a town that fosters healthy aging and inclusivity. Inclusivity and healthy aging. We were recognized, and we're very proud of that recognition. That happened last week. And there's a lot of great people that went into the work that helped us win that award. Again, we're proud of that. The second thing is tomorrow night, June 17th at 5 o'clock, and I invite everybody here, and certainly everyone listening at home, we are going to have a special dedication ceremony of the T-ball field on the Broad Street Green. It was a priority of this council to bring back that T-ball field, and it's an exciting thing to watch the kids play. I think I've told some of you this before. I went to opening day and I saw the first young hitter come up and he hit the ball off the tee and he ran directly to third base. And his parents were yelling that you should be going to first base. I actually thought it was pretty efficient. So I thought that was a good move. Anyways, we're dedicating that T-ball field tomorrow night to Judy Keene. I call Judy the fairy godmother of Wethersfield. The amount of stuff that Judy and her husband, Dick Keene, have done for this town over decades is just laudable, what they've done for the kids. And tomorrow, I hope you'll join us as we have a dedication ceremony at 5 o'clock, naming that T-ball field after Judy and Dick Keene. And third and finally, on June 24th, that's another Tuesday, also at 5 o'clock, we will be at the Pitkin Community Center for a special dedication of the First Responders mural. We started a murals committee, the council did, about a year ago, with the goal of having a mural up in Wethersfield. Public art really can enhance and does enhance communities. We partnered with Rise Up in Hartford, who's put up murals with communities all over the state of Connecticut. We got our committee together. I'm seeing one of our great committee members, and there's others as well, that worked so hard, and we appreciate it. And we decided that the first mural we wanted to put up in Wethersfield was a First Responders mural to honor Bobby Garden and Robert Sharkovich, our 2 fallen heroes. So I want to invite all of you on June 24th at 5 o'clock at the Pitkin Community Center. If you haven't seen the mural, it's absolutely beautiful, and we'll have a special dedication ceremony. With that, I think that's it for council comments. I'm going to ask Mr. Town Manager or Town Manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to start with a response to all the WEMSA comments. I did post this statement publicly for everybody to see, and I also posted the actual decision of the state. I think a lot of the comments made by the chief tonight were blatant misrepresentations of what took place. And I'm going to address some of those because this has been what has been going on since this process started, and it's unfortunate, but it's something that's what they've chosen to do that I don't agree with. But so again, this is a statement from my office regarding the public response to the proposed Department of Public Health Emergency Medical Services decision. I need to address the recent social media comments made by Dennis McMahon of the Wethersfield Emergency Medical Service Association about the recent proposed memorandum of decision made by the State of Connecticut Department of Public Health Public Hearing Office in response to the town of Wethersfield's request to change the primary service provider, petition number 24-003. Unfortunately, throughout this process, and even as recently as this week and tonight, I'll add, members of WEMSA have mischaracterized the town's action. The town of Wethersfield had no other choice but to act when WEMSA unilaterally decided to change the relationship with Aetna in a way that could have grave impact on our population. Now, that is not my opinion. That is the opinion of our entire public safety staff. I met with our police chief, our fire chief, and their total command staff and said, told them what WEMSA was proposing, and I'll get into how that was done to me. But they all agreed, without hesitation, we cannot allow this to happen because people will die. With that, the town of Wethersfield, again, it was WEMSA who ended an agreement with Aetna that had been in place for over 2 decades in our community. For those of you that don't know, WEMSA does not have any advanced life support capabilities, okay? They have no paramedics, and they never have. They control the PSAR, the Primary Service Area Responder Petition, for both basic life support and advanced life support. So they've had to contract out for all these years. They don't have that capability. And what they provided to me on the eve of the Friday before New Year's at 3 p.m. is when I first received notice that they were moving forward, was a plan that they were going to have a paramedic from East Windsor provide those services by riding in one of their ambulances. Those of you that don't know, Aetna has frequently provided 3, 4, 5, as many as 6 ambulances with paramedics to accident scenes and emergencies in this town. Since I've been here on multiple occasions, the plan that was presented had no accountability for that kind of an emergency. We have Silas Deane Highway, we have the Berlin Turnpike, and we have Interstate 91 running through our town. Those accidents are not jokes, and we had to take this very seriously. So we did the only thing we could do, and we filed with the state, because I called the state immediately when I received the email from Dennis and his attorney on that Friday afternoon. And I said, what can we do to stop this? Because this plan will not work. And their response was, you have to file a petition and have us review everything. And that's the only process that the state law allows. So we did that. And an impartial hearing officer from the Department of Health was selected and sat through 23 days of hearing testimony and evidence, and found that the town has demonstrated that Aetna's resources, experience, staffing, quality control, and relationship with the sponsor hospital would at least maintain, if not improve, patient care in Wethersfield. Now, this conclusion was based in part on the testimony of one of our experts that we brought in, who's a national expert on EMS services, and someone that the hearing officer himself identified as a leading expert in the country. This case is not about personalities, it's not about money. Chief McMahon suggested that he asked us to give him $250,000 and that would have solved all this. Patently false. He provided me with a plan in the process of over a year of us trying to facilitate an agreement between Aetna and WEMSA, talking to both parties separately because they wouldn't come together at the table most of the time. But we did meet together on a few occasions, and the town was trying to be the facilitator in that. We have no control over this process. Let me be very clear about this. The state does. So we did everything we could for over a year to try to get these two parties to agree. I will tell you that during that process, WEMSA kept moving the goalpost. So initially it was, we need to add a day. And then a couple meetings later, it was, we're going to add another day and another day. And Aetna's on the other side going, we've had this agreement for 20 years. Every day you add is making it so this agreement won't work anymore. So, again, this is not about personalities or money. It's really about life or death. People often exaggerate and overstate the significance of these matters. This is not the case here, okay? This is very serious. WEMSA did not provide us with an adequate plan to cover what Aetna was providing on their behalf. I've told Dennis multiple times in those meetings with his attorney, you give me a plan that is viable. I have no problem moving on to another agreement. The one plan he did give me in all that time, when we analyzed it, was not financially viable. It would have failed in the first year. when I reached back out and said, look, our finance director reviewed this, he doesn't see how this can work financially, the response I got was, yeah, we know, we just want to show you we're working on something. And I never received another plan until that date in December where he said, effective January 1, this was December 29th, I believe, effective January 1, Aetna's no longer in town. And we're going to cover it with this paramedic from East Windsor. We could not allow that to happen. So the hearing officer, again, listened to 23 days of hearings and stated that the town sustained its burden of proof and the alternative plan should be approved. In determining whether to approve the alternative plan, the commissioner has to consider several factors: the impact of the plan on patient care, the impact of the plan on emergency medical services system designs, including system sustainability, the impact of the plan on local, regional, and statewide emergency medical services, the recommendation from a sponsor hospital, some medical oversight, and the financial impact to the municipality without complicating the quality of patient care. And specific to these charges, the hearing officer stated that based on the evidence provided, the town has demonstrated that Aetna's resources, experience, and staffing, quality control, relationship with its sponsor hospital would at least maintain, if not improve, patient care in Wethersfield. They found that based on the evidence in this matter, the town has demonstrated by a preponderance of evidence that the alternative plan is sustainable and will not negatively impact the system design. Based on the aforementioned, the town has proven by preponderance of evidence that the alternative plan will not negatively impact local, regional, and statewide EMS systems. Hartford Hospital is the co-sponsor, is a sponsor hospital and supports the alternative plan to assign Aetna as the BLS and ALS PSAR for Wethersfield. Therefore, the town has proven by a preponderance of evidence that the alternative plan would have no financial impact on the town. Any suggestion that we're doing this to switch to a for-profit company for some side deal or the other stuff I'm reading on social media is ridiculous. And the statements made by Dennis tonight, frankly, are ridiculous. The proposed memorandum of decision fully supports the town's position in this matter. Aetna has been a reliable and valued partner for all of you in this town for the last 2 decades, providing emergency medical services for both advanced life support, 24/7, and basic life support for whenever the volunteers weren't able to cover, which was most of the time, frankly. They did nights and weekends. While we value and absolutely recognize the outstanding service provided by the Wethersfield Volunteer Ambulance Association dating back to 1956, that is not the organization that you hear before you tonight. The Wethersfield Volunteer Ambulance Association was disbanded by them in exchange for WEMSA without a viable plan to move forward to handle the emergency medical needs of this town. And again, my public safety team, without hesitation, said we cannot let this happen, people will die. You heard a lot of anecdotal examples from WEMSA folks tonight about people that they have served and saved their lives and Aetna didn't respond. I can tell you, throughout this process, I've received people reaching out to me with the exact opposite, okay? We had to make a decision, and we had no power in how to control this. Otherwise, we would have sat down and forced an agreement of some sort. That was not our purview. The state controls this process. We followed the rules. We went to the state, and WEMSA had every opportunity to present everything they needed to show that they could do this, that they could get this job done and not affect the care of this community. They did not do that. They could not do that. And as much as I hate to see a small local group not move forward, it was their actions that forced our hand, and we did the only thing we could for the townspeople. And you'll still hear, I know they're going to come out and continue with the misinformation campaign, but I feel 100% confident that we made the right choice. I appreciate the council's support. This has been very difficult. They've been updated regularly in executive session, dating back to the previous council, by the way. And they were in full support of this as well as we move forward. So we did what we had to do. I'm sorry that it came down to this. I really am. It's unfortunate, but I think WEMSA grossly mishandled this whole situation and forced us to do something we didn't want to do, but we had to do for the citizens of this town. Concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Moving along, Town Clerk's report. Sue?
The June 2025 EDIC Memo and Report are included in the agenda packet for your review. And also, we're very busy renewing the dog licenses this month. We've issued 756 so far. And in addition to our recordings, issuing vital records, and managing the transition of many of the boards and commission members, and completing special project work.
Thank you, Sue. Appreciate it. Moving right along to bids I-1. Do I have a motion? Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to award a contract to Energy Systems Group, ESG, and authorize the town manager to execute the investment grade energy and water use audit agreement, IGAA, pending final legal review.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Zambrello. Questions or discussion? Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much. This is a project that the Resiliency Committee has been working on. The reason that it's at the Resiliency Committee and it's been here for a little while is that the scope of what we're talking about can be transformative to our town. The Resiliency Committee is created to have structural change which can benefit our town long into the future. So we can talk, I know that Councilor Ritter is here as well, but we can talk about some tax changes and talk about the reliance on property taxes. But this is about energy, and this is about having an attempt to reduce our dependency and the portion of our budget that relies heavily on oil, gas, non-renewables, and a chance to really lower our costs in that area. So it also attacks what we talk about a lot, and we've had a lot of discussion about infrastructure, right? But the infrastructure is our building infrastructure. We're talking about $500,000, $1 million chillers, HVAC systems, and so on. So the idea is that under performance contract, we would the amount that we spend on energy would then be transformed into a long-term bond, which we could pay for large-scale improvements all over this town, including or adjacent to some of our new schools, our old schools, our town hall, Picken Community Center, etc. And so I am certainly asking for this support because not only can we become a cleaner and more thoughtful town with the environment, we also can lower our spending and use our town capital to be able to do that while not increasing our taxes and having the taxpayer pay for it. So that's why we're heading down this path. This is the first step in getting an audit in order to determine how will have a nice return on investment and what will not. I know that's a lot of talk, and we're talking about finance, and sometimes it's not very interesting, but this is a very important motion on our agenda, and I ask for adoption.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Other questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes. Thank you. We will now move on to the consent agenda, item J. Do I have a motion? Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I move approval of the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilor Rhodes, discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Good. Moving on. Item K1. I think we'll start with a motion. Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to accept the Charter Revision Commission draft report.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Councilor Timbrow.
I did just have a couple questions because they were raised during the public comment. With the date being September 16th, could you give the reasoning behind that versus doing it on the 4th?
I think we're on K1.
Oh.
This is on charter revision, but the next one I think is what you want
Well,
to talk
that will be my question for the next one.
Hold that, Councilor Timbrow.
I'm ready to go.
It happens to the best of us.
You're ahead of the game. Thank you, Councilor Timbrow. Further questions or comments on this item? Let me just say quickly before we vote on it, I really want to thank the members of the Charter Revision Commission who spent countless hours reviewing the charter. It's not easy work. It's often mundane. maybe boring work. It happens every 10 years, and they did a tremendous job coming up with recommendations, and we certainly appreciate all the work that they did. If there's no other questions or comments on this one, I'll call the question. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes. Councilor Timbrow, you're almost up. Number K2, do I have a motion? Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Into the breach. I move to approve R25-012, a resolution to appropriate $239 million for the construction of a new HIGHCREST Elementary School and for renovations and improvements to Samuel Webb Elementary School and Charles Wright Elementary School, and to authorize the issuance of bonds or notes of the town in an amount not to exceed $88 million to finance the appropriation.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Do I have Councilor Zambrella second? Comments or questions on the motion? Councilor Timbrow.
So the same question, could just because of the discussion around the date, could you give the reasoning behind doing this on the 16th versus, September 16th versus November 4th?
I will start, and thank you, Councilor Timbrow, and anyone is free to join in. I feel that this issue is so important to the town, and it deserves to stand on its own, and that the voters should be deciding this on its own. I make the argument this is the #1 issue in town. You heard someone say that. I believe that strongly, the future of our schools. And I feel if the referendum is in November, it becomes secondary to other things that voters are deciding on, mainly which candidates to support, and this becomes, in my view, not as big an issue. And this is the future of our elementary school, our kids, our teachers. I'll have another comment about that, but specifically to your question, my answer is, and any counselors are free to speak, obviously, is that it's so important it should stand on its own and not be, in my view, secondary to the actual election of counselors and school board members in November. But I understand the question, and we've gotten a few of them, so thank you, Councilor Timbrow. Any other questions or comments on the motion? Councilor Timbrow, you have the field.
Okay, thank you. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. I just wanted to provide clarity because it did come up a couple times.
Yep, thank you.
My other question, again, because it came up with the language that would be on the referendum, is this final language, or is there opportunity for this to possibly be amended in the future should we have further discussion?
Thank you, Attorney Ritter. Good question.
Yeah, so this is an important meeting, right? Because when you adopt, again, we have a couple deadlines that we're facing, right? Number one is the June 30th deadline, right? We have to have scheduled the referendum by June 30th to have the town be eligible for the school priority list for DAS for next year. So that is kind of the deadline we're up against. It was all, we talked earlier about the notification, right, for the public hearing and the notice, right? You do have the ability, right? This is a resolution before your board to make amendments. I mean, I thought that was pretty obvious, but I wanted to state too that you could amend downward. I don't know if I'd let you amend upward to increase the amount of money or bonding, but you can still make amendments and changes to this resolution. That's what a public hearing is for, is you listen and you make responses if you want to. But unfortunately, I think after tonight, we're pretty much locked in. Could there be an opportunity to maybe revisit it under your Robert's rules or something like that? We could talk about that, but I think this is, for all intents and purposes, pretty final after tonight. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Timmer. Thank you, Attorney Ritter. Other Councilor Timbrow, you still have the floor. You good? Okay. Other council comments or questions? And again, this is the main motion. So I have Councilor Rhodes. Did you raise your hand?
I did.
Councilor Rhodes.
Just a quick question, because I think that some really good points did come up, just about people wanting to be clear. In the explanatory language, will it state in there, just to clarify, the Webb Deane, or not the Webb Deane Stevens, I don't even know what building we're talking about now. No, the Webb Elementary.
HIGHCREST, where?
The Webb School.
We'll let you.
Thank you, the 5-6 Webb School. Yes. In the explanatory language, will it state in there that the Webb School is going to be renovated into an intermediate school, into a 5-6 academy, so that that's clear in the explanatory language, even though in the question, it refers to it as Webb Elementary, because currently it's Webb Elementary.
Yep.
So is that language going to be in that explanatory piece?
So I'll give you the answer. It can go in there. Ultimately, the town manager is going to draft it, right? My job is to review it to make sure it doesn't advocate for or against. But could it go in there? Of course. But I'll defer to the town manager.
Yes, we would absolutely, because that's a core piece of this whole plan. And basically, we would, as simply as possible, state all the major components of the plan that was developed by Downs, that was approved by both the Board of Ed and the council.
Okay, thank you.
That being a key one, and also the location at Keisha being a key one.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rhodes. Further council questions or comments on the motion? Deputy Mayor Forrest.
Thanks so much, Mayor. I am proud to support this particular resolution. I do agree that in the explanatory text, it should be very clear that it is our intent, or some more forceful language, that the school up at the HIGHCREST area be built on the Keisha field. I mean, that's been consistent over the last 2 months or so. I know it does feel a little bit conspiracy theory-y that there's going to be some switcheroo or something like that, but absent something dramatically incapable of building that school on that land, that's certainly the intent of the council as far as I've heard it. It's certainly my intent from just my seat. And additionally, that the public be made fully aware of the intent to move to an academy model. Those recommendations, and I thank all of the people that worked with tremendous hours on the building committee, including John, I know, who now is the chair, but also Russ before that, and all the committee members that worked through all of it. They really listened to even a new model of education in town. And while I'm not going to profess to be an expert in education or any type of pedagogy, it feels like when there's just basic conversations about, hey, maybe having a kindergartner in a school with a sixth grader, we might have this opportunity to sort of break that up and provide a different space for education. That felt right. That felt like a direction that I was comfortable going in. Having all of Wethersfield's children come together on one school in this academy model feels like something that brings the town together rather than breaks them apart. That feels a direction that is a positive direction for our town. And having served on the Board of Education, and we always know there are these bubbles in our schools, right? We heard about one class at 26, and those classes will move from elementary school to elementary school, and you don't necessarily know what grade they're going to be in as children come in and come out of our system. Having a comprehensive model at 5 and 6 allows fewer of those bubbles to happen and provides, from a monetary standpoint, a more efficient set of education where you don't have a district that's been drawn and might have a bubble in 3rd grade of 2 very large classes, or kindergarten. By the time you get, now we have a singular school that takes care of all of our 5th and 6th graders, and we're able to spread those class sizes out much more evenly and equitably. So that felt right? There's a direction here that feels right. Aside from that, and we always see someone come up here and we're at the dais about, like, what is our Wethersfield credentials, right? How many years you've been here or schools you've gone through. There is, as has been stated, there is a pride of place here. And I often think, if I were taking a friend from another state into Wethersfield, like, am I proud of these schools? Not, of course, we're proud of our teachers and our students, but am I proud to say, these are great schools? And I do go to other people, and there's a pause moment now where you go to other communities and you see their schools and their educational environments, whether it's physical education, mental, academic education, computer education, exchanges with other cultures, and they are nicer in many instances than our current situation here in Wethersfield. So when you talk about pride of place and being proud of Wethersfield, this is a step toward that and more of that, and recognizing that we can have a new greatness emerge over our almost 400-year history. And this is that moment. Like, this happens maybe once every 4, 6, 8 years that we sit up here, and it's like, this is the turning point. And that moment, coupled with the state legislature and our legislators getting us a threefer, the old New England term, three for one, it is a situation which I think deserves a yes vote. And it's a situation that I'm proud of, as the mayor said, and I think as he was walking around even 2 years ago, this is the #1 issue in town, right? This is the #1 thing that's going to affect the most people. And he's right. And I couldn't be more proud that we took the time to, I believe, do it as best that we possibly could, knowing everybody's not going to be perfectly happy. But we are going to end up in 4, 6, 8, 10 years about something that we can be absolutely proud in. I'm happy to vote yes, and I encourage all my councilors to vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Further council comments? Councilor Zambrello.
Thank you, Mayor. You all know I'm going to be supporting this tonight. I want to thank we've been doing a lot of thanks tonight, but let's do it one more time. I want to thank the building committee, first of all, for volunteering for this endeavor. They brought so many different areas of expertise to this project, and I really think they're a huge part of the reason we're coming out with such a good, solid, comprehensive plan for our 5 schools. The Board of Ed, of course, our consultants, TSKP, Downs Construction, our bond council, our fellow counselors who have never failed to give input or weigh in when they needed to, our town staff, the various commission members who have weighed in throughout this process, and of course our legislators who really went to bat for us. All 4 of them were advocating for us, and they knew how important this was to us and how much we needed any help we can get to get this over the finish line. We are in the best possible position to get this done, and this really is the moment to get this done. And of course, the public. The public has been involved from day one of this process. I think we had our first ad hoc school building committee meeting maybe within a week of us getting elected. And there were counselors on that committee, there were town committee members, there were Board of Ed members, there were principals and parents and various members of the community who all gathered immediately and said, okay, let's brainstorm some ideas. Let's figure out what general direction we're going to go in, narrow some things down, figure out what our general priorities are so that we can take the next steps in the most informed way. This has been a long process. It's taken a long time, but as the Deputy Mayor just said, I think that was so worth it. And that all of that time and consideration and sometimes pivoting, as was mentioned today, we came out with the best possible plan. And that's, I think, a big part and due to the buy-in of everyone from the very beginning, including the public. Like I said, we've been working on this since the moment that we were elected. We are determined to get this right. From the very beginning, we said we wanted a comprehensive plan. We don't want to be patchworking this into the future. We don't want to say, let's do a referendum on one school and then see what happens. Doing it as a 5-school comprehensive plan really gave us the opportunity to have a vision for our education system, where we can discuss making WEBB a 5-6 academy and finding out that that's actually a viable option. And because we're doing it this way, we can pace it out exactly right, that we can really change the way we do elementary and junior high education in this town in a way that I think is going to be really beneficial for our students. So I'm very excited about that. I, just on a more personal background note, I went to Charles Wright, and when I toured it last year, it was exactly the same. Exactly the same. It was a little bit spooky. The temporary portable classrooms that were built when I was in 5th grade were still there. And that was a little shocking, especially hearing the sounds of rodents running around and knowing that those things were not built to last. Yet here we are 20 plus years later from when those were supposed to be temporary. So, and that was just my school. Getting to see some of the others, HIGHCREST with the roof leaks and just the wild design of that building, that's just all the exterior doors, the way it's all pocketed into these little hexagons. It's just not the way we design schools anymore. And I'm sure it was very innovative and it worked great for a short period of time, but it doesn't anymore. So now we have the opportunity to make a brand new HIGHCREST. I absolutely support it being on the Keisha property. I was really grateful I think I did have worries that that community would come out and not be in favor of it. That property has been a difficult one to figure out. And they actually supported it. And it was amazing to see a community buy into it and say, yes, we do want the new school here. We want you to put it on this property. And I'm thrilled about that. So very happy to support it going in that location. I do want to explain a bit more about the reimbursement bump, just so that people understand how we get to those numbers. So HIGHCREST started at 46%. That's what we get for new construction. The other two schools in our first referendum, WEBB and CW, they get 56% because they're renovations. Our state legislators were able to advocate and get us a 15-point bump for all of them. So they all go up by 15. HIGHCREST, because it has early childhood education space, gets another 15 because the legislature also changed that this year so that if you have early childhood education space, you get a 15-point bump for the entire school. It was previously for that part of the school, but they also expanded that, so we're benefiting from that bump as well. It's really incredible. I'm so grateful to them and to our legislators for advocating for us, for helping us get the highest reimbursement rate we've ever gotten. We won't get this chance again with these sort of finances, with this level of a comprehensive plan. I really think we have put our best foot forward. We have worked so hard to correct the mistakes of the last referendum and make sure we're learning from those mistakes. I really appreciate the Board of Education very early on doing a whole postmortem on that referendum to understand exactly what went wrong so that going forward we knew what not to do and what we could improve on, and I think we've accomplished that as best we possibly could. And this is really where our job pretty much ends as a council. And we know the public's been involved from the very beginning, and this is where you all take off. And I know, seeing how many folks you brought out today, you can absolutely do it. I have all the faith in you, and I just want to say, get us across that finish line. It is in your hands now. Very grateful to everyone involved, and thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Zambrello. Further council comments or questions? I will just add, although a lot of it's been said, thank you everyone who spoke on this. Really appreciate it. Thank you to all the councilors' work, and it's worth noting, Councilor Zambrello, we appreciate all the hours you put in as the liaison and all the work you did. All the groups that were mentioned, and I'll forget some, but it's worth thanking them again. Town staff who did a tremendous amount to get us to this point. Board of Education, Building Committee, Bond Council, all the folks, and perhaps last but not least, and most importantly, the community. I have heard from so many people who are so excited about this opportunity for Wethersfield. You know, we don't get a lot of chances like this to do big things and to do what I'm going to say is transformative things in our town. And this is that moment, and this is that opportunity. You know, we're building buildings. We are renovating and building new buildings, but we're really not, that's not the main thing. The buildings. We're building people. We're lifting up people. We're lifting up our students. We're lifting up our teachers. We're lifting up all the staff that work in those schools, and we're lifting up our community. You know, a lot of people pick the town they want to live in by the quality of the schools. And we're a very attractive town. People really want to live here. We don't have enough housing. That's a separate issue, but related in some ways. But they're going to want to live here even more when we get these new schools. I really believe this is a defining moment for our future, and I can't be more grateful to everybody who got us to this point, and I can't be more excited and optimistic about our future here in Wethersfield, and this is a big step to a more exciting future. So with that, if there's no further comments or questions, I will call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Passes. Thank you, everybody. We will move on. We have no unfinished business. We are now at M1, which I think we're tabling it. We had the Recovery Friendly Act. That's on. I've got to look at the old agenda. That's not on there. And we are now at public comment. I'll just note for the counselors, we will have no executive session. We're going to put that off tonight. But we are at the second public comment. Thank you.
Just a motion out.
What's that?
Do a motion on Q, we'll table it.
Okay, we're going to need a motion after when we get there that we're not going to go into an executive session because it is an agenda item. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, always helping me with procedure. Thank you, everybody. I see everybody leaving. We're not done yet, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you being here. So we are at the second public comment. Again, you have 5 minutes to speak on any item, and I just ask again, even if you've spoken before, to state your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes. And I saw your hand first. I know, Dennis, you had your hand up. Mr. Young, I knew. Yeah, right there.
My name is Teotola, and my address is 59 Stonegate Drive. I want to keep this short, simple, and sweet, just because I also have a bedtime and a curfew. So I want to acknowledge what Ms. Jane said about there is a lot of change that's going to happen in Wethersfield. I have been probably alive the same amount of time that Etna and Wethersfield have been partners. I am not that old. I recently graduated high school here in Wethersfield. I've lived in Wethersfield my whole life, and I'm very passionate about this because not only do I work here, but I do serve this town. I talk to people that work with Etna. I talk to people that work with Wethersfield, and I think I wasn't here when Wethersfield made these decisions. I wasn't here when these conversations were or were not occurring. However, I think a lot of the argument is in the past of things that have happened. And as someone who's young, as someone who wants to keep living here when I graduate college and have a future here, and from talking to a lot of people in the town, why can't we come up with a better solution so that we can both coexist and work together, and we can all sit down and just put whatever happened in the past aside, because at the end of the day, it is the patients, it's about the people. We have 3 EMTs that work with us right now, very smart EMTs that are in medic school and are planning to go to medic school. Why doesn't the town maybe invest in that more? You know, I think it's just disappointing that if we as a town are gonna just take away our own town ambulance service for Etna based off, you know, your points of talking, Mr. Presley. I think it's just disappointing. Why wouldn't you want to invest in your town more to make it a better town and make it safer for people and make it maybe at a cheaper cost? Because Etna is expensive. Etna is expensive to come to our patients and to charge them for the care that they provide. I think I would be more than willing to try to find a solution to this. I know there's plenty of young, very smart individuals. I know Dennis wants to find a solution. I think at the end of the day, what really matters is finding a solution so that we can all coexist. We can all help the people that we were meant to help. And I think we need to put all these tensions aside to really serve our people. I just don't think that it's fair that we're still on the same arguments, and I understand the frustration. I absolutely understand the frustrations, but we're also frustrated too. I think at the end of the day, we all have a voice that needs to be heard, and I'm more than willing, along with a lot of younger people, WEMSA's done a lot over the past year to reestablish itself, not because of profit, but rather because we care about our patients. When we're not on the truck and we're not taking care of people, we are practicing our skills to make sure that we're ready for the next call. Even though we are a BLS service, we also need to know our stuff too. You know what I mean? I don't want to go to a call and be unprepared, be unstocked, not know what I'm doing, because that's someone's life on my hands. We all understand that, whether you're an EMT, whether you're a medic, a nurse, a doctor, no matter what the case is. And all I'm asking, I don't want to insult anyone tonight. I don't want to cause any issues. I really want to find a solution as someone who's young and lives in this town, and I'm more than willing to do that, putting all these tensions aside, because that's the priority here. I think we really need to serve the people. We need to think about the people. What's the best option? And I understand the frustrations of the past. I really do. But what's in front of us now, the future? You guys were talking about the school systems. I think it's a great idea. There's a lot of changes that need to happen, right? Our schools are deteriorating. I went to HIGHCREST. HIGHCREST looks like a mess right now. Those ceilings look, ooh. But, you know, with change, we can make it better. We don't need to cut people out. You know what I mean? So I really ask for you to reconsider this decision. I know that there's a lot of hands that are playing into this that I have no control over. But whatever you have control over, I'm asking you to reconsider. I'm asking you to help work with us. We are more than willing to work with you. If Etna can get involved, the chief deputy for the fire department, for the police, I'm more than willing to. We have a new assistant chief that's in place too. 2 of our our former EMTs are leaving for medical school and have done such a tremendous job to try to reform this place too, and I want to recognize them. I want to recognize Roberta Wood. I want to recognize the DCO. I want to recognize Dennis, because at the end of the day, they really do care, and it shouldn't be about, you know, this conflict at the end of the day. So that's all I'm going to say. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We have, I think, Dennis, you had your hand up. Mr. Young, I know you had your hand up, and we'll see who else.
Again, Dennis McMahon, Highland Street. I'll be brief. We did not disband. We're still here. I've been a resident in this town for 43 years. I've been a lawyer for 44 years. Been an EMT for 41 years. Little League coach for 31 years. 5 years head coach in the old J.C. Current Baseball League. I taught CCD over at Corpus Christi for several years. I agree. The social media stuff, you never see me doing anything with that. I don't believe in it. I don't put any stock in it at all. But I did review my notes. I want to say that everything that I said tonight was true. My word is my bond. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. I have Mr. Young, and then I have Christine. I see your hand up as well. Well, Christine, why don't you come up? Mr. Young, it was a tie. Miss Christine is up, and you're after. Oh, I get to go first. Christine, you're up first. I'm calling Christine. Christine, you're up.
Yeah, you were.
That's right. You're kind of right in the
Christine
same.
Kelly Lacella, 37 Belmont Street. I was going home after the last public comment. I sent you all an email months ago, and I'm going to kind of bounce back to Councilor Rotes, what you said about, you know, people checking themselves, and none of you deserve to be snarked at, called names, or anything. And I heard you, and you know, I think it's inappropriate. I also think it's appropriate for people in the audience here to treat each other with respect. And this is not the first time tonight, and I'm really, I'm tired. And there's a woman that sits in this front row, and every person that she doesn't agree with, she snarks at, and it's Russ Moran's daughter. And I don't know if it's because it's Russ's daughter or if nobody's looking at her. I mean, she's anyone that doesn't agree with her, me in particular. And when I walked up here, she sits here and snarls and smirks at me, and nobody says a thing. Somebody please control the room, because somebody up there has to see her, and it's wrong. And I'm not mad at you guys, but God, doesn't anybody see it? Give everybody, you know, Cindy Clancy, you can call her out and say, stop. I mean, I stopped speaking and I said, I can't do this, because she's sitting here laughing because I came up here and wanted to share something. It's wrong. And I'm tired of it. And instead of walking out after her, I said, you know what, I'll come up here and I'll ask very nicely. And I sent you all an email months ago, and I told you all months ago, I don't expect you to respond to me. You're all very busy people. But I sent an email regarding how she treated me and my father at HIGHCREST School. And it's still happening. And she sat right there, and nobody said a word. And it's just wrong. And I wouldn't do that to any of you, and I don't do it to her because she and I don't agree or what have you. So I'm just asking, give everybody up here, if somebody sees something, you know, or somebody's acting disrespectful to a speaker, somebody say, you know what, time out. Or put her in the back of the room, because she acts like she's a 9-year-old. You know, it's just not right.
Thank you, Christine. Mr. Young?
Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. As I was talking earlier about the Kinney Center revenues, the Kinney Center collects just for their rooms that they rent. In 2022 was $57,000. In 2023 it was $52,000. I know I mentioned that earlier. The Chamber of Commerce was $6,000 each year, and Standish House was $53,555 the next year. This is a total of $117,000 that they collect in rentals, and all they do is pay us $100 a year. And we have no finance, no board of finance that can review this. Back then in the day, they didn't have it either, and it wouldn't have passed, or it should not have passed. But here we are, we're stuck. And we have the worst people in the town in this entire town and this town council that doesn't know how to do business. Doesn't know how to do business. These people are making $117,000 on $100 rent. We're making $100. They're making $117,000. The next year, $134,000, and we get $100 in rent. Why can't that be turned back? And when we had the 10-year cycle to re-look at this, it happened, but it wasn't even mentioned at our town council meeting under council comments. Not one of our council members mentioned that. And I think I sent that message, that letter was one of the things that I had sent you several weeks ago, or a week or two ago. But here also, they're making all this money, and we're stretching. We citizens are stretching, and we're paying for their electric, their gas, their oil that they're using, with the exception of $3,000 in the aggregate for everything. And we pay for everything else. We pay for the lawn care, we pay for the snow removal, we pay for washing the exterior of the windows. And Mr. Forrest, when he goes down there, all he does is put his hand out and they kiss his hand, from what I understand.
Mr. Young, please, respectfully.
Because he made
Mr.
so
Young.
much money on every year. Every year, Mayor. I'm not talking over a 50-year period. I'm talking one lousy year. They brought in $117,000 because they were smarter than we were. They had better people working for them, and many of those people were our own people who were working for them. We citizens were sold down the river because at that time, that's how it's done. And there's no recourse for us for 50 years. And here we are. $134,000 this in the year 2023, year 24, it's going to be higher. And we're going to keep paying. Now also, here we have Transitional Academy. We all heard that term before. We're renting what? 370 Silas Deane Highway. We're paying something like $4,750 a month rent. We pay the rent. The town of Wethersfield pays the rent for 1 month, $4,700 for our Transitional Academy times 12 months. Times 12 months. And then this has been going on now for 9 years. 9 years, every year, we're paying $52,000 a year, roughly, in rent. And this is going on for 9 years, yet we own the Kinney Center, and we can't put our Transitional Academy in there. We're not putting our Transitional Academy in the Little Red Schoolhouse. We're not putting them anywhere. We're keeping them in rental. And this rent comes up in the year August of 2016. I'm sorry, 2026. The rent now will be up for renewal for another 5 years. And that's going to be at $55,225 a month, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
We are getting drained thanks to the poor management of this town.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Any further public comments tonight? Not, we will move on our agenda, and I think we need a motion that we're not going to have executive session, I think procedurally. So, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thanks. I move to table Q1 until the next council meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Council. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. We do have another agenda item. We don't have Councilor Carbone here tonight, but we have added the council comments at the end. Does any councilor have any? Anybody have any additional comments? Seeing none, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Didn't even know